Chapter 1023. She could clearly sense that Lu Ming did not have the slightest bit of spiritual fire. This was very rare. Ordinary martial artists would cultivate spiritual fire as an auxiliary martial art. However, she could not sense any spiritual fire on Lu Ming. Yet, Lu Ming's eyesight was extremely terrifying. He could see through the weakness of the formation immediately. Even she could not do better than him. That was why she was even more curious. You immediately hid your appearance and changed your appearance to hide from me. Unfortunately, it's not that easy to hide from me. Sandalwood Fairy pursed her lips and smiled charmingly. Lu Ming rushed out of the canyon and let out a long breath. With his current combat strength, he was not afraid of Sandalwood Fairy. However, he was in the wrong. Moreover, this was Pill City, the territory of Medicine King Valley. If he was discovered by the Medicine King Valley's level 8 inscriptionists, he would be in deep trouble. You bastard, I won't care about you anymore. Lu Ming glanced at Dandan. Kid, what did you say? Why didn't you say that when I found a treasure like the Na Yuan pill for you? Dandan glared at Lu Ming and bared his teeth. Lu Ming was silent and speechless. Indeed, Dandan had helped Lu Ming a lot at times. However, he was also the one who caused trouble. Kid, now that I've obtained the spiritual medicine, I'll be able to recover faster. Once I'm fully recovered, I'll be able to dominate the world. At that time, not to mention martial emperors, I'll be able to kill even stronger opponents with a single slap. When that time comes, there will be countless people who want to curry favor with me. You won't have a chance. Dandan said proudly. Oh. How long will it take for you to fully recover? What level of spiritual medicine do you need? Lu Ming asked. I don't know. As for spiritual medicine, if you want me to fully recover, mere spiritual medicine is useless. I need stronger treasures, such as sacred medicine. Dandan muttered. Die. Lu Ming immediately despised him. What was the use of saying so much? Holy medicine. What was a panacea? That was a legendary supreme treasure, an unparalleled treasure. Even if a ruler saw it, he would go crazy over it. In terms of level, it was something that completely surpassed a ruler. Above level 9 spirit medicine was the saint medicine. The man and the tortoise bickered as they returned to the inn. Then, Lu Ming threw Dandan into the mountain and river diagram, and Lu Ming continued to cultivate. Early the next morning, Lu Ming, Chu Kuang, and Zhang Wenjing headed towards the Pill King Courtyard. The Pill King Courtyard was located in the west of Pill City. It was very famous and everyone in Pill City knew about it. There were people from the Medicine King Valley guarding the entrance of the Elixir King Courtyard. However, after Chu Kuang revealed his identity, they naturally did not stop him and the three of them entered the Elixir King Courtyard. Inside the Pill King Courtyard, the fragrance of herbs assailed the nostrils. Every blade of grass, every tree, and every flower were spirit herbs. Many of the buildings were built like pill furnaces. Their shapes were simple and unadorned, and they were filled with the aura of time. There were colorful butterflies and bees fluttering in the flowers, gathering pollen for the spirit flowers. These colorful butterflies and bees were not ordinary insects. They were all exotic species. For example, every single one of those bees was a level 5 demon beast, equivalent to a king realm cultivator. The honey they brewed in the future was a type of treasure medicine that was priceless. Entering the Elixir King Courtyard and smelling the fragrance of herbs made one feel refreshed and their breathing smooth. If an ordinary person entered here and stayed in this environment for a few days, it was guaranteed that they would not be plagued by illness and would live a long life. Lu Ming clicked his tongue in wonder. This Medicine King Valley was the same as the Talisman Puppet sect. They were both great sects of the Tao of Inscription. However, the Talisman Puppets sect was more inclined towards talismans and puppets, while the Medicine King Valley was more inclined towards alchemy. Moreover, their fates were very similar to the Talisman Puppet sect. There was once a ruler overseeing both of them, but now the ruler had passed away. In fact, the talisman puppet sect could no longer be considered an overlord force because there was no ruler overseeing it. Lu Ming looked around carefully and walked a few rounds in the courtyard. When they arrived at a courtyard, it was already filled with people. They were all young people, and he didn't see any older generation figures. There were around 10 tables with around 80 to 90 people. At the side, there were disciples of the Medicine King Valley walking around and serving jugs of fine wine. Someone was already impatiently pouring out the fine wine. Instantly, the fragrance of the wine assailed the nose and drifted in all directions. Good wine, it's really good wine. Chu Kuang's nose twitched as his eyes lit up. It's indeed good wine. Lu Ming praised. Before drinking it, Lu Ming could feel that it was absolutely good wine. Moreover, there were many types of spirit herbs in the wine. It was absolutely not ordinary wine. Brother Lu, this is the outer courtyard. Third-grade prodigies and above should be in the inner courtyard. Chu Kuang transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. So that's how it is. Lu Ming suddenly understood. No wonder he didn't see any famous prodigies here, let alone second-grade prodigies like Fairy Sandalwood, Jing Kongling, and Junyu. It turned out that there was an inner courtyard and an outer courtyard. Obviously, only third-grade prodigies and above could enter the inner courtyard. Chu Kuang, Zhang Wenjing, and Lu Ming walked towards the front door, attracting many people's attention. That's Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing. I'm so envious. Third-grade prodigies and above can enter the inner courtyard and drink with peerless beauties like Fairy Sandalwood and Jing Kongling. I heard the inner courtyard's fine wine is even more precious. Who's that kid? How come I've never seen him before? He dares to enter the inner courtyard, be careful not to be kicked out. In the end, many people looked at Lu Ming with some surprise. Because they felt that Lu Ming was a stranger, as if they had never seen him before. Only Hai Ziming, Ling Yunкong, and the other Floating Sky Mountains prodigies remained calm. They were clear that Lu Ming was definitely a third-grade prodigy. Of course, Lu Ming heard these words as well. He ignored them and walked through the main door into the inner courtyard. There was a small lake in the inner courtyard, and the environment was more elegant and unique. There was a pavilion beside the small lake, and in the pavilion, there was a table. There were only 6 people sitting around the table. Fairy Sandalwood, Jing Kongling, Junyu, Im Bupo, and Sanguinarum. In addition, there was a young man in white who Lu Ming had never seen before, but needless to say, he was also a second-grade prodigy. Otherwise, he wouldn't be qualified to sit at that table. Below the pavilion, there were 2 tables with more than a dozen young people sitting at them. These people were obviously third-grade prodigies. So it's Brother Chu and Miss Zhang. Please come in. Fairy Sandalwood waved her hand slightly and smiled. When her gaze turned to Lu Ming, a trace of surprise flashed in her eyes, and then the corners of her mouth curved into a smile. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly restrained his aura, not looking at Fairy Sandalwood. Ha, Chu Kuang, long time no see, I wonder if your strength has improved recently. At this time, an arrogant voice sounded. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the voice and saw that it was a young man in a blood-red robe. He had a burly figure and an arrogant expression, sitting between the 2 tables below. Huang Kuei, you were just lucky to win the Battle of Providence. Don't talk about it every day. Chu Kuang said coldly with an ugly expression. Lucky? Hee, you really know how to flatter yourself. Chapter 1024. Huang Kuei sneered at Lu Ming with a look of disdain. Lu Ming frowned slightly. He didn't say a word when he came in, but Huang Kuei took the initiative to talk to him. Huang Kuei, Brother Lu is qualified to enter this place. Chu Kuang said with a sullen face. Ha, qualified? Do you think you're qualified? If that's the case, anyone can bring someone in. Are there any rules? Huang Kuei sneered, then looked at Sandalwood Fairy and said, "Fairy, I suggest we drive this person out." However, before Huang Kuei could finish, Sandalwood Fairy raised her hands slightly and interrupted Huang Kuei. "Brother Huang, you don't have to say anything more. I know Brother Lu. He's qualified to enter this place." The crisp voice spread throughout the entire area, causing many people's eyes to move. They were somewhat surprised. Sandalwood Fairy actually knew this young man with the surname Lu? Where did he come from? Was he also a third-class Sky Pride? Why hadn't they seen him in the Battle of Providence? Many questions arose in everyone's mind. Huang Kuei's face stiffened, then turned red. He was so embarrassed that he wanted to die. Previously, he was scolding Lu Ming loudly, saying that Lu Ming was a good-for-nothing who was not qualified. However, in the next moment, Sandalwood Fairy directly said that she knew Lu Ming and that Lu Ming was qualified. This was equivalent to slapping him in the face in public. He was burning with anger and was very dissatisfied with Sandalwood Fairy, but he didn't dare to show it. "It's all because of Chu Kuang and this kid who embarrassed me." Huang Kuei didn't dare to be dissatisfied with Sandalwood Fairy, so he could only transfer his anger to Lu Ming and Chu Kuang. He picked up the wine glass and took a sip, his eyes cold. Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing were also a little stunned. Sandalwood Fairy actually knew Lu Ming. Could it be that Lu Ming and Sandalwood Fairy were old acquaintances? Everyone had different thoughts. Even Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. Could it be that I've been recognized? Lu Ming couldn't help but think. "Brother Lu, please take a seat." Sandalwood Fairy waved her hand and smiled sweetly, pointing at their table. This time, the scene exploded, and everyone's expression changed. "What?" Sandalwood Fairy asked this Lu guy to sit at the top table. "That table is reserved for second-tier prodigies. Does this Lu guy have the right to sit there?" "How is that possible? How many second-class prodigies were there? I didn't even see him in the Battle of Providence. How can he be a second-tier genius? Then why did Sandalwood Fairy call him to the seat of honor?" Many third-class prodigies were discussing in low voices. However, everyone had a doubtful look on their faces. Even Jing Kongling, Yin Bupo, Junyu, and the others were startled as they looked at Lu Ming curiously. On the other hand, Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing's expressions were even more interesting. Lu Ming himself was also a little stunned. "Brother Lu, please." Sandalwood Fairy extended another invitation. "All right, Lu Shaoqing, thanks Fairy." Lu Ming clasped hands and stepped forward, not bothering to be courteous. This brat really went up. He really dares to go up. Does he really think that he can stand shoulder to shoulder with a second-class prodigy? Lu Ming's action caused another round of discussion in low voices. This brat, Huang Kuei's face turned even uglier. Lu Ming didn't care about the gazes around him as he stepped forward. He was now certain that Sandalwood Fairy had recognized him. Since she had recognized him, he could only face it. At worst, he would just have to compensate Sandalwood Fairy with those spiritual herbs. "Brat, get lost. This is not a place for you to come up." Just as Lu Ming stepped onto the pavilion, a cold voice rang in Lu Ming's ears. It was a voice transmission, so no one else could hear it. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and looked at someone. Sanguinarum. It was Sanguinarum who had spoken just now. At this moment, Sanguinarum stared at Lu Ming in an unfriendly manner. Lu Ming sneered. Then, he ignored Sanguinarum and continued to step forward. He came to the table in the pavilion and sat down on an empty chair. He completely ignored Sanguinarum. This made Sanguinarum's face turn ugly. A trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. Jing Kongling, Junyu, and the others also looked at Lu Ming curiously. "It's about time. Let's not wait any longer. Serve the wine now." Sandalwood Fairy's voice rang out. Then, she clapped her hands gently. A few young women brought pots of wine. A small pot of wine was placed in front of each of them. The first wine is called Heart-Burning Flame. Everyone, please try it. Sandalwood Fairy said coquettishly. As soon as Sandalwood Fairy finished speaking, someone couldn't wait to pour the wine and drink it in one gulp. Lu Ming also poured a cup for himself. When the wine was poured into the cup, a layer of flame seemed to appear on the surface of the wine, dancing in the cup. What a wonderful wine! Lu Ming praised in his heart. Then, he picked up the cup and drank it in one gulp. The wine was mellow and sweet, but when it slid down his throat and into his stomach, it was like a flame that burned fiercely. In particular, there was a heat that flowed into his heart. Lu Ming felt that his heart was burning, but he didn't feel the slightest pain. Instead, he felt warm and comfortable all over his body. This wine can also burn and condense one's true yuan. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. He found that his true yuan was slightly more condensed. Good wine. Lu Ming couldn't help but pour another cup and drink it again. Then, Lu Ming poured a few more cups. Soon, the pot of wine was finished. Lu Ming licked his lips, looking like he hadn't had enough. The others were similar. Even some of the women, who usually didn't drink much, drank it all. Good wine, heart-burning flame. It really lives up to its name. Next to Lu Ming, a young man in white sighed. This person was a peerless genius of the World Academy, Kong Xian. It really is good wine. Jun Yu also praised. His body faintly flashed with a demonic light, his aura threatening. It's good that everyone likes it. My sister's efforts were not in vain. Next, I invite everyone to taste the second wine. Sandalwood Fairy chuckled. Then, she clapped her hands. Another young woman brought up the wine, and everyone still had a pot. This wine is called Clear Spirit Dew. Sandalwood Fairy introduced. With the previous heart-burning flame wine, many people couldn't wait and began to drink. Lu Ming poured a cup and drank it in one gulp. This wine gave off a completely different feeling from the previous heart-burning flame wine. When this wine entered the stomach, a cold feeling spread throughout the body and finally gathered in the mind. Suddenly, Lu Ming felt his mind become incomparably clear. His thoughts were active, several times stronger than usual. Lu Ming's heart stirred. He carefully sensed the concept of earth. He discovered that his comprehension of the concept was several times faster. This wine could actually increase a martial artist's comprehension ability. Of course, this was temporary. The wine was fused with spirit pills. Once the medicinal efficacy wore off, the effects would naturally disappear. But it was still amazing enough. If consumed for a long time, one's cultivation speed would definitely be greatly enhanced. One cup after another, the entire pot of wine was quickly emptied. Chapter 1025. The wine brewed by Sandalwood Fairy is really rare. I'm so lucky today. Ha, yes. If others knew about this, they would be so envious. The youths began to flatter Sandalwood Fairy, hoping to get her attention. Since everyone is in such high spirits, why don't we have a duel to liven things up? Huang Kuei raised his cup and strode out, his voice echoing throughout the area. Everyone was excited. The show was about to begin. Drinking wine was only one aspect of the gathering, but sparring was inevitable. Huang Kuei was the first to suggest it. Using martial arts to liven things up, of course. Sandalwood Fairy waved her hands, and inscriptions shone on the ground. A fighting ring appeared in an open space not far away. This fighting ring was originally refined by our seniors for sparring. It's sturdy and indestructible. You can use it to your heart's content. Sandalwood Fairy introduced. Thank you, Sandalwood Fairy. Huang Kuei smiled and stepped onto the battle stage. He glanced around and his gaze landed on Chu Kuang. Chu Kuang, you lost to me in the Battle of Luck. Half a year has passed, I wonder how much progress you've made. Do you dare to fight me? Why wouldn't I? Chu Kuang downed a cup of wine in one gulp and landed on the battle stage in a flash. Miss Zhang, what are Brother Chu's chances of winning? Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Zhang Wenjing. Zhang Wenjing's expression was grave. She transmitted her voice to Lu Ming. It's hard to say. Huang Kuei is the second genius of Cold Blood Hall. He is very powerful. Back then, Brother Chu was defeated by Huang Kuei in the Battle of Providence. Although Brother Chu has improved over the past 6 months, Huang Kuei will not remain stagnant. So Huang Kuei is also from Cold Blood Hall. Lu Ming's heart jumped. No wonder Sanguinarum had shouted at him to get out. Boom! At this moment, the two of them had already started fighting. The two powerful auras collided with each other, resulting in a violent explosion. Chu Kuang and Huang Kuei were both at the early stage of the 9th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Apparently, they had just broken through 10,000 miles of ice. Chu Kuang slashed out rays of saber light. The terrifying cold chi seemed to be able to freeze the entire Alchemy Academy. It's this move again, Blood Flame Claw. Huang Kuei's blood and chi boiled as he clawed out numerous claw lights. These claw lights reeked of blood, and a blazing heat burst forth from them. The blood-red flames and the ice continued to clash against each other. Sizzling sounds could be heard from the battle stage. The ice was melted by the flames, and mist filled the entire area. Yin Bupo waved his hand and the cold wind blew away the mist. Meanwhile, the geniuses of the outer domain had also heard the commotion. They all rose into the air and looked over. Chu Kuang is fighting with someone. His opponent is Huang Kuei. Hai Ziming said. Chu Kuang lost to senior brother Huang Kuei in the Battle of Providence. This time, Chu Kuang will definitely lose. A genius from Cold Blood Hall sneered. That was then and this is now. I don't think so. Hai Ziming replied coldly. Really? Just watch. The Cold Blood Hall disciple sneered. Cold Blood Hall and Floating Mountain bordered each other, and their relationship was not good. In the central continent, the emperors stood side by side, and the various overlords fought for supremacy. They were not harmonious and had conflicts with each other. For example, Sky Eagle Fort and Cold Blood Hall were mortal enemies. At the same time, the relationship between Cold Blood Hall and Floating Mountain was not good. As the crowd discussed, the battle in the battle stage became more intense. The two had already exchanged more than 100 blows. Bloodthirsty Realm. Huang Kuei displayed a terrifying unique skill of Cold Blood Hall, and a blood-red light screen exploded in all directions. Chu Kuang's expression changed drastically, and he quickly retreated. He seemed to be very afraid. Even though he retreated, he was still affected. The blood in his body boiled, as if it was about to leave his body. Blood Flame Emperor's Hand. Huang Kuei changed his move again, and his attacks became more violent. Chu Kuang had no choice but to use Bloodline Fusion. But then, Huang Kuei also used Bloodline Fusion. It turned out to be a blood-red claw, like the claw of some kind of creature. It was very powerful. The two bloodlines collided in the air, and soon dozens of blows were exchanged. But it was obvious that Huang Kuei was stronger and gradually gained the upper hand. In the end, Chu Kuang's bloodline was torn by the blood claw, and he reverted to his human form. He spat out blood and looked very pale. Huang Kuei also reverted to his human form and laughed. Chu Kuang, I think you're getting more and more useless. You lost faster than last time. You'll never be a match for me, ha ha ha. Huang Kuei laughed arrogantly, full of contempt. Chu Kuang's face was gloomy, and he did not say anything. Since he had lost, it was useless to say anything. It would only be more embarrassing. Ha, I told you that Chu Kuang would lose. You Floating Mountain has no one else to show except Jing Kongling. In the sky of the outer yard, the sky prides of Cold Blood Hall sneered. Hai Ziming and the others looked a little pale. But the sky prides of Cold Blood Hall were right. Floating Mountain was indeed slightly weaker than Cold Blood Hall. Even among the overlords, there were strong and weak forces. Floating Mountain was considered weak among the overlords, while Cold Blood Hall was obviously stronger. Chu Kuang walked down the battle stage with an ugly face. He came to Zhang Wenjing's side and sighed. Being defeated by Huang Kuei for the second time was a big blow to Chu Kuang. Brother Chu, it's normal to win and lose. Winning once doesn't mean you'll always win. I believe that you'll be able to defeat Huang Kuei in the future. Zhang Wenjing comforted him. Wenjing, I'm fine. Chu Kuang smiled and quickly adjusted his state of mind. Huang Kuei was still standing in the battle stage, looking proud and invincible. Finally, his eyes fell on Lu Ming, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Lu Shaoqing, do you dare to come up and fight? Huang Kuei shouted. He had his eyes on Lu Ming. Lu Ming was actually invited by Fairy Sandalwood to sit together with Sandalwood and the rest. This made him extremely jealous. Who was Lu Ming? How could he sit with Sandalwood Fairy and the others? How strong could a person who didn't even participate in the Battle of Luck be? Huang Kuei was sure that Lu Ming was not strong. Perhaps he was just lucky to know Sandalwood Fairy. Moreover, Lu Ming came with Chu Kuang. He wanted to defeat Lu Ming in public and humiliate him to prove that he was stronger than Lu Ming. In this way, he could also indirectly attack Chu Kuang. You want to challenge me? Lu Ming squinted at Huang Kuei and said indifferently. That's right. Do you dare to fight? If not, quickly admit defeat and get out of here. Huang Kuei smiled contemptuously. Hee, okay, I agree. But I won't take advantage of you. You've more or less exhausted in the battle just now. Let's fight again after you recover. Lu Ming said. No need. It's just dealing with Chu Kuang. It won't cost me much. And even if I'm exhausted, I'm confident that I can deal with you. Huang Kuei said confidently. Is that so? Up to you. Lu Ming got up, stepped out, and appeared in the battle stage. Everyone's eyes fell on Lu Ming. Chapter 1026. Even Junyu, Jing Kongling, and Kong Xian were looking forward to it. Even Sandalwood Fairy was looking forward to it. She invited Lu Ming to take a seat because she recognized that Lu Ming was the one who stole the medicine. She was curious about how he could move freely in the formation without any spirit fire, so she invited Lu Ming to take a seat. She also wanted to see how powerful Lu Ming's real abilities were. That's Lu Shaoqing. In the air above the outer court, Hai Ziming, Ling Yunkong, and the rest were shocked to recognize Lu Ming. It's that brat, the one who went in with Chu Kuang. Ha, an unknown brat dares to fight with senior brother Huang. I bet that he'll be completely destroyed by senior brother Huang within 10 moves. 10 moves? I don't think he'll even take 5 moves. Several talents from Cold Blood Hall sneered. Don't be so full of yourself. Hai Ziming replied coldly. He had fought with Lu Ming before, and felt that Lu Ming did not use his full strength. Maybe he could fight with Huang Kuei. I'm not being full of myself, but there's no doubt about it. The talents from Cold Blood Hall looked confident. In the fighting ring, Lu Ming and Huang Kuei stood opposite each other. Come on. Lu Ming said lightly, looking as if he was as calm as the clouds and wind. Humph, stop pretending. I'll make you show your true form soon. Huang Kuei sneered. His figure flashed, and a blood-red claw light shot toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming did not even look at it, and struck out with his palm. A 5-colored light flashed on his palm. Bang! The palm and the blood-red claw collided, producing a cracking sound and a muffled groan. Huang Kuei quickly retreated to the other side of the fighting ring, his face extremely ugly. One of his palms was trembling slightly, and one of his fingers was deformed. The whole place suddenly fell silent. Lu Ming actually forced Huang Kuei back with one palm, and even broke one of his fingers. How could his battle strength be so terrifying? So you do have some skills. I was just careless just now. Next, I'll suppress you. Huang Kuei's voice rang out. His deformed fingers began to twist and recover. Whoosh! Whoosh! His figure flashed repeatedly, pouncing towards Lu Ming. Blood Flame Emperor's Claw. Huang Kuei continuously clawed out hundreds of times. Endless blood-colored claw lights flooded towards Lu Ming. Every claw radiance was terrifyingly sharp. It was suffused with a blazing aura and possessed the terrifying power of burning and corroding. Bloodthirsty Realm. At the same time, Huang Kuei unleashed the Bloodthirsty Realm. He executed many of his ultimate skills at the same time. Huang Kuei wanted to use this move to defeat Lu Ming in one fell swoop. He wanted to ruthlessly humiliate Lu Ming and avenge his broken finger. Is this the bloodlust technique of Cold Blood Hall? Compared to the devouring power of the 9 dragons, it's far inferior. Lu Ming thought to himself as he felt the blood in his body trembling slightly. The bloodthirst grand art could indeed affect the blood of others and weaken their battle prowess. However, it had no effect on Lu Ming. The devouring power circulated, and the blood flow stabilized. Bam! Lu Ming took a step forward and chopped down with his palm again. This time, the power of his palm was more than 10 times stronger than the previous one. The space distorted and exploded. The bloodthirsty realm collapsed like tofu. The claw radiance that filled the sky disappeared without a trace under Lu Ming's palm. Crack! Accompanied by the sound of bones breaking and a shrill scream, a figure retreated rapidly. Huang Kuei, it was Huang Kuei again. At this time, one of his palms was completely deformed. The bones in his fingers and palm were all broken and shattered into hundreds of pieces by the terrifying power. Hiss, gasps could be heard from all around. Everyone looked at Lu Ming in shock. Lu Ming had beaten Huang Kuei to such a state with ease. He had completely crushed Huang Kuei in a crushing manner. Lu Ming actually had such battle prowess. This was too terrifying. Brother Lu's cultivation has broken through. Chu Kuang muttered. He felt that Lu Ming's cultivation had broken through. Previously, he was at the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Now, he was at the 9th level. When Lu Ming was still at the 8th level of Spirit Embryo Realm, he could already faintly suppress him. Now that his cultivation had broken through, he was indeed even stronger. Huang Kuei himself was also in disbelief. Lu Ming's strength was far beyond his imagination. Lu Shaoqing, let's call off this battle. You have the upper hand. However, I am indeed exhausted from the battle with Chu Kuang just now. Let's fight another day. Huang Kuei shouted. He was obviously afraid. You want to fight and you don't. Have you asked for my permission? Lu Ming sneered. He took a step forward and appeared in front of Huang Kuei in an instant. This Huang Kuei was really laughable. Before the battle, he said that he wasn't exhausted and that it was more than enough to deal with Lu Ming. Now that he saw that the situation wasn't right, he wanted to call off the battle. He even used the battle with Chu Kuang as an excuse. Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense with him and directly chopped with his palm. Huang Kuei was alarmed and used all his strength to block. However, he was sent flying the next moment. The bones of the other hand claw were also broken. The next moment, his bloodline burst forth and he transformed into a blood-colored claw. However, Lu Ming took a step forward and appeared in front of the blood-colored claw, chopping down with his palm. The palm suppressed everything and collided with the blood-colored claw, giving off a violent boom. The blood-colored claw then collapsed and transformed back into Huang Kuei's figure. Bam! Bam! Lu Ming executed 9 dragons' heaven-trampling steps and stepped down towards Huang Kuei. Stop! In the pavilion, Sanguinarum stood up and shouted. His blood qi soared into the sky. However, Lu Ming only glanced at him casually and ignored him. He continued to step on Huang Kuei's body. Huang Kuei screamed miserably and fell heavily on the stage. The stage rumbled and Huang Kuei's bones cracked. He then laid on the stage like a dead fish, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood and twitching all over. Crushing, a complete crushing. The surroundings were completely silent, not a single sound could be heard. In the sky above the outer yard, the geniuses who saw this scene were all dumbfounded. Huang Kuei, a third-class genius, was stronger than Chu Kuang, but he was like a piece of trash in front of Lu Ming. He was easily crushed and beaten into a dead dog. What kind of combat strength was this? Was Lu Ming a second-class genius? Hai Ziming, Ling Yunkong, and the others gasped in fear. They finally realized that Lu Ming did not use his true strength when he fought with them. Otherwise, they would have been in deep trouble. The geniuses of Cold Blood Hall were tongue-tied and could not say a word. They had previously said that Huang Kuei could crush Lu Ming in 10 or even 5 moves. However, the truth was completely opposite. Lu Ming had beaten Huang Kuei into a dead dog in less than 5 moves. Senior brother Huang Kuei might have exhausted himself in the battle with Chu Kuang. After a long while, a genius from Cold Blood Hall spoke. However, his words were met with a collective disdain. The battle between Lu Ming and Huang Kuei was not as simple as genuine essence consumption. It was a complete suppression of combat strength. Even if Huang Kuei was at his peak, the result would be the same. Even a blind man could see that. Not only them, but the geniuses of the inner yard were also stunned. Chapter 1027. As for Jing Kongling, Junyu, Kong Xian, Yin Bupo, and the others, their expressions were solemn. Lu Ming's battle prowess was close to their level. Amazing! Sandalwood Fairy's eyes shone with excitement. Brat, I told you to stop, didn't you hear me? Sanguinarum's face was gloomy as he glared at Lu Ming. Lu Ming glanced at Sanguinarum indifferently and said, "This is my battle with Huang Kuei, you told me to stop. Who do you think you are?" When Lu Ming's voice was heard, the entire place suddenly fell silent. Not only the inner courtyard, but the outer courtyard as well. Many people widened their eyes in shock. Who do you think you are? Lu Ming actually dared to talk to Sanguinarum like that. Does he want to die? Chu Kuang, Zhang Wenjing, and Hai Ziming sucked in a breath of cold air. Not good. Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing's faces changed, revealing a worried expression. Although Lu Ming was strong, he shouldn't be Sanguinarum's opponent. After all, Sanguinarum was a second-grade prodigy. The difference between a third-grade prodigy and a second-grade prodigy was huge. Just like the Emperor God, if he used his full strength, he could kill Blood Sword One in a few moves. Sure enough, cold killing intent burst out from Sanguinarum's body as he stared coldly at Lu Ming, laughing in anger. "Ha, brat, you actually dare to talk to me like that, do you really think you're invincible just because you have some battle prowess? I'll let you know who I am right now. Who do you think you are? You'll pay a heavy price for what you said." With that said, Sanguinarum's figure flickered and appeared on the stage. Terrifying killing intent filled the air, causing many people to shudder. Everyone was shocked. Sanguinarum was going to attack Lu Ming. He wanted to kill Lu Ming. In the pavilion, Jing Kongling frowned and said, "Sanguinarum, you've gone too far. If you want to fight, I'll accompany you." After all, Lu Ming had come with Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing. As the #1 sky pride of the Floating Mountain sect, Jing Kongling naturally couldn't watch as Sanguinarum killed Lu Ming. "Jing Kongling, are you going to meddle in other people's business?" Sanguinarum said coldly. "So what?" Jing Kongling stood up. His body was surrounded by mist, making him look even more ethereal. "Miss Jing, there's no need for you to do anything. I alone am enough to deal with a blood bat. Lu Ming's voice rang out again, leaving the others speechless. Lu Ming said that he was going to deal with Sanguinarium alone, and he even had a confident expression on his face. Where did his confidence come from? Hee, Sister Kongling, I think there's no need for you to interfere. Maybe there'll be a surprise. Sandalwood Fairy smiled. She was even more curious about Lu Ming now. Jing Kongling's gaze shifted, and then he sat down without saying anything else. Lu Shaoqing, right? It's good to be confident, but you'll soon find that your confidence can be very stupid sometimes. Seeing Jing Kongling sit down, Sanguinarium's killing intent became even colder. Is that so? Lu Ming smiled faintly and kicked Huang Kuei, who was still twitching, off the fighting ring. This action made Sanguinarium's face darken again. How dare he do this in front of him? This was a slap to his face. Boom! A powerful aura burst out from Sanguinarium's body, and a layer of blood-red flames danced wildly. This blood-red flame was extremely terrifying. It was even more shocking and strange than the Wang family's pure purple heavenly fire. Lu Ming's face darkened slightly, and his genuine vitality ran wildly in his body. He dared not be careless in front of Sanguinarium. After all, he was a genius at the same level as an emperor god. Blood-gathering heavenly saber. Endless blood-red flames condensed into a saber. Sanguinarium held the saber with both hands, and his body rushed madly toward Lu Ming. He chopped down with the saber. A terrifying force pressed down on Lu Ming. The power of this saber alone had surpassed Huang Kuei's. The five-colored essence covered his body, and Lu Ming operated the hell-suppressing skill. He strode forward and struck out with his palm. Boom! The saber radiance and the palm collided with each other, creating a terrifying boom. Lu Ming's body swayed, and he retreated several steps. Lu Shaoqing retreated. He's no match for him. I knew it. He's no match for first senior brother. As soon as Lu Ming retreated, the geniuses of Cold Blood Hall began to ridicule him. It's just the beginning. What's the hurry? Hai Ziming responded coldly. Whoosh! At this moment, Sanguinarium chopped at Lu Ming again. His battle strength is indeed strong. Then I'll increase the power of the hell-suppressing skill. With a thought, Lu Ming struck out his palm again. This time, Lu Ming did not retreat. He held his ground. Blood-gathering heavenly saber, 9 slashes of heavenly saber. Sanguinarium roared, and his blood-red heavenly saber moved unhindered. Each strike was stronger than the last, and each strike seemed to be able to destroy everything. With a dragon roar, Lu Ming broke out 2 streams of dragon force. His strength increased greatly, and his palms continued to strike out. Boom! 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 The fighting ring kept shaking, and a terrifying force shot out in all directions. In the blink of an eye, dozens of strikes had passed. The scene was silent. Everyone stared at the 2 men in the fighting ring with their eyes wide open. How can he be so strong? The disciples of Cold Blood Hall were shocked. They had thought that Sanguinarium could easily suppress Lu Ming, but now they realized that they were wrong. Lu Ming could actually fight Sanguinarium to this extent. Jing Kongling, Junyu, and the other second-class geniuses looked grave. Lu Ming could fight Sanguinarium to this extent, which meant that he was qualified to join the ranks of the second-class geniuses. Moreover, they could see that Lu Ming's cultivation was at the early stage of the spirit embryo realm, while Sanguinarium's cultivation was at the peak of the spirit embryo realm. The fact that Xueluozi was unable to gain the upper hand despite having a higher cultivation base was shocking. Sanguinarium became more and more surprised. Lu Ming's battle strength was beyond his expectations. Bloodthirsty realm. Sanguinarium used the bloodthirsty technique. A light curtain spread out and enveloped Lu Ming. Lu Ming's blood was boiling. Sanguinarium used the same move, but it was much more powerful than Huang Kuei's. You're showing off in front of an expert when it comes to devouring power. Devour. Lu Ming's left palm exploded with a terrifying devouring power that enveloped Sanguinarum's entire body. At this moment, Shueluozi's eyes widened in disbelief. Bloodthirsty intent, no, this power is 10 times more terrifying than bloodthirsty intent. My essence, blood, vital essence, and even my artistic conception are all vibrating. What kind of power is this? What kind of secret skill is this? Sanguinarum's mind raced. Sanguinarum was stunned. Lu Ming would not let go of this opportunity. He instantly attacked Sanguinarum with his palm like a heavenly knife. Not good. Sanguinarum hastily slashed out with his knife and clashed with Lu Ming's. The knife light was shattered by Lu Ming's palm, and the terrifying power landed on Sanguinarum's body. Sanguinarum spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated quickly. Bloodline fusion. Sanguinarum used bloodline fusion as he retreated, exploding with his strongest battle strength. 4 strands of dragon energy. Lu Ming also exploded with 4 strands of dragon energy. Chapter 1028. Squeak squeak. The Sanguinarum transformed into a blood-winged heavenly bat and let out a scream. A terrifying invisible sound wave spread out towards Lu Ming. Enveloped by the sound wave, Lu Ming felt his eardrums rumble and his heart beat faster. This was the blood-winged heavenly bat's innate secret skill. It was extremely terrifying. Those with low cultivation would have their hearts shattered by the sound wave. Circulating the true dragon art, his true yuan was like a dragon, guarding his body against the external sound wave. Lu Ming soared into the sky and charged towards the blood-winged heavenly bat. The blood-winged heavenly bat screeched and pounced towards Lu Ming, starting the battle again. Qi energy shot out in all directions. The two were still tied and it was difficult to determine the winner. Second-class prodigy, Lu Shaoqing is actually a second-class prodigy. Ling Yunkong muttered to himself in the air of the outer yard, his face pale with fear. There was no doubt that Lu Ming was a second-class prodigy. His combat ability was terrifyingly powerful. At the thought of how he had gone against Lu Ming in the past, Ling Yunkong's back was drenched in cold sweat. It was obvious that Lu Ming did not go all out because he was wary of the Shao clan. Otherwise, he would have ended up in a miserable state. Back then, he was forced by Lu Ming to swear a blood oath to never go against the Shao clan again. He still harbored resentment and wanted to find an opportunity to take revenge. But now, it was like a basin of cold water had been poured on him, extinguishing all his thoughts. Take revenge on Lu Ming. What a joke, he was courting death. If Lu Ming went all out, he could kill him with one finger. He secretly decided that he would find an opportunity to apologize to Lu Ming in the future and admit his mistake. At the same time, he would appease the Shao clan 10 times more and build a good relationship with them. Hai Ziming, Wukong, and those who had dealt with Lu Ming smiled bitterly. They knew that Lu Ming had been merciful previously. The other geniuses of the Cold Blood Hall were all pale and did not say a word. It was the same in the inner yard. Those third-class prodigies also did not say a word, but they knew that another second-class prodigy had appeared. Brother Lu. Chu Kuang smiled bitterly and shook his head. He had previously thought that Lu Ming might be stronger than him, but he never thought that Lu Ming would actually be so much stronger than him. Like I said, this guy might bring me a surprise. In the pavilion, Sandalwood Fairy smiled. It's indeed a surprise. I didn't expect such a person to appear after the Battle of Providence. Jing Kongling also nodded. Jun Yu's, Yin Bupo's, and the others' faces became even more solemn. They knew that from now on, they would have another powerful opponent on their path. In the sky, Lu Ming and Sanguinarum had already exchanged more than 100 blows, but they were still evenly matched. Sanguinarum was indeed very strong. He was definitely on the same level as a monarch god. However, Lu Ming was different from before. Lu Ming had comprehended an additional essence during the Battle of Providence, and his battle strength had greatly increased. Now, Lu Ming could fight Sanguinarum to a draw without using bloodline fusion. If he used bloodline fusion, he would have no problem suppressing Sanguinarum. However, even without bloodline fusion, Lu Ming could still suppress Sanguinarum because he had the primordial stone. It's time to end this. Lose. Lu Ming roared, and the genuine essence in his body circulated wildly as he used the hell-suppressing heaven skill with all his might. Boom! He struck out with his palm, and the genuine essence in his body was completely absorbed. Use all your divine-level martial techniques. Sanguinarum roared, gritted his teeth, and flapped his wings continuously like two heavenly blades. There was no doubt that Sanguinarum had also comprehended a low-grade divine-level bloodline martial technique from his bloodline. However, just like Lu Ming, he couldn't use it completely because he didn't have enough genuine essence. At this moment, when he saw Lu Ming use his full strength, he could only use his full strength to resist. Boom! The two terrifying attacks collided, and an earth-shaking rumble resounded. Space warped rapidly, and in the end, a pitch-black hole was actually blasted open, revealing a pitch-black space. The two of them erupted with their full strength and collided with each other, and they actually pierced through space. Piercing through space was something that could only be done at the spirit god realm. This meant that the strength of the collision between the two of them had already reached the spirit god realm. This was an extremely shocking thing. A huge rumble resounded, and the two of them retreated extremely quickly. However, Lu Ming only retreated a few dozen meters before he stopped and stood in the air. Not only was the genuine essence in his body not exhausted, it was in an absolutely full state. Just a moment ago, he'd absorbed the genuine essence within the origin stone. Sanguinarum was unable to maintain his blood-wing bat form, so he transformed back into his human form and retreated an entire 100 meters before barely stopping in midair and gasping for breath. Could it be that it's going to end in a tie? Jing Kongling spoke in a low voice. They were naturally able to discern that both of them had erupted with their full strength and executed divine-level martial techniques with their full strength. Obviously, both of their genuine essence had been exhausted. Both of them were probably powerless to continue fighting. Lu Shaoqing, I admit that you have some ability. Let's consider it a tie today. If we fight again in the future, I'll definitely defeat you. Sanguinarum said. A tie? Who said it's a tie? Lu Ming sneered. You don't want a tie. Our genuine essence has already been exhausted, so it's meaningless to continue fighting. Sanguinarum said. Who said my genuine essence has been exhausted? A ridiculing smile hung on the corners of Lu Ming's mouth as the genuine essence within his body circulated swiftly, and a formidable aura erupted with a bang. Bang! Bang! At this moment, Jing Kongling, Junyu, Kong Xian, and the others could no longer remain calm. They all stood up from their chairs and looked at Lu Ming in shock. Lu Ming still had genuine essence. He still had the strength to continue fighting. How was this possible? Impossible. Sanguinarum's eyes were also filled with disbelief. Lu Ming had erupted with his full strength and executed a divine-level martial technique. It was impossible for him to have the strength to continue fighting. What was going on? A primordial stone. You have a primordial stone. Sanguinarum's pupils shrank as he shouted. Only a primordial stone could replenish one's genuine essence in an instant. Otherwise, even the best spiritual pills would take some time to recover genuine essence. It was impossible for it to be so fast. The others also came to a realization. They didn't expect Lu Ming to have such a treasure. Lu Ming didn't deny it. He stepped forward and closed in on Sanguinarum as he sneered, "Our battle isn't over yet." Boom! Lu Ming took a step forward and rushed towards Sanguinarum like a stream of light. Damn it! Sanguinarum roared and used the last of his strength to retreat. But he had exhausted his genuine essence. How could he avoid Lu Ming's attack? The terrifying palm power blasted Sanguinarum's body. Sanguinarum screamed as countless bones in his body were broken. His body fell to the ground of the alchemy department. Boom! Sanguinarum smashed a large hole in the ground. Smoke and dust filled the air. "I'll kill you." Lu Ming rushed over with a murderous look in his eyes. Everyone was shocked. Lu Ming wanted to kill Sanguinarum. If he really did kill Sanguinarum, the higher-ups of Cold Blood Hall would go crazy. "Stop!" With a roar, a blood-red light slashed down from the sky towards Lu Ming. Chapter 1029. The blood-robed old man's aura was shocking to the extreme. He was actually a domain spirit god. There was actually a domain spirit god from the Cold Blood Hall nearby. Lu Ming furrowed his brows. It seemed that the most powerful geniuses of the various forces had bodyguards around them and powerful figures were secretly following them. For example, Jing Kongling, Yin Bupo, and the others might have experts following them from the shadows. This kind of person was known as a protector. They protected the growth of these geniuses. Because a genius like Sanguinarum was too rare. Not every generation could produce such a genius. It was impossible, and only one would appear in many generations. Once such a genius died in battle, it would be a huge loss. "Young man, don't push your luck. Accept what's good for you." The blood-robed old man glanced coldly at Lu Ming, causing Lu Ming's entire body to go cold. The blood-robed old man was absolutely terrifying. He was absolutely not someone an ordinary domain spirit god could compare to. Lu Ming frowned and didn't say anything. The blood-robed old man stretched out his hand and grabbed the unconscious Sanguinarum from afar. His figure flashed, and he transformed into a ray of blood-red light that left this place. His mission was only to ensure Sanguinarum's safety, and he wouldn't attack Lu Ming. Lu Ming was so strong. Who knew what power stood behind him and if there were any experts following him? The blood-robed old man didn't want to cause trouble for himself. Huff! Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. These geniuses of the various powers really aren't simple. They actually have such an expert following them. The blood-robed old man gave Lu Ming extremely strong pressure. If they fought, Lu Ming wasn't confident at all in his ability to escape. After Sanguinarum was taken away, Lu Ming returned to the inner court. "Brother Lu is truly a peerless genius. I admire you." As soon as Lu Ming returned, Fairy Sandalwood raised her cup to Lu Ming and smiled sweetly. "Fairy Sandalwood, you're too courteous. I only took advantage of the origin stones," said Lu Ming. Since the others had guessed it, there was nothing for him to hide. Jun Yu, Yin Bupo, and the others looked at Lu Ming with slightly solemn expressions. Lu Ming's combat strength was extremely strong, and he even had the origin stones. They were probably no match for him. However, they weren't too worried. So long as they broke through to the domain spirit god realm, their true origin would be extremely abundant, and they wouldn't be afraid even if Lu Ming had the origin stones. At that time, "Brother Lu," said Yi Xian, "Brother Lu, let me toast Lu Brother Lu Ming." Kong Xian, who was dressed in white, raised his wine cup and smiled. "Brother Kong Brother Lu Ming Lu Xian." Only when they saw Lu Ming's strength did they truly treat Lu Ming as someone on the same level as them. Although Fairy Sandalwood had invited Lu Ming to sit with them, they looked down on Lu Ming and didn't take Lu Ming seriously. They were all rare geniuses in the world and were arrogant. They wouldn't take geniuses who weren't on the same level as them seriously at all. Even if they were friendly on the surface, they still looked down on them deep down. But now, Lu Ming had won their attention. Strength was everything. It's really a great era now. There are so many geniuses. I thought that after the Battle of Providence, all the geniuses would have appeared. I didn't expect that even after the Battle of Providence, someone like Brother Lu would still appear. Looks like I've been too complacent. I should keep working hard. Otherwise, I won't be surpassed by all of you. Kong Xian was a rather forthright person, and he sighed with emotion after drinking a cup of wine. Brother Kong is right. In this great era, if we don't advance, we'll fall behind. During the Battle of Providence, Long Chen stepped into the domain enlightened spirit god realm and shocked the world. But some time ago, I heard that Xian Yanjuan stepped into the domain enlightened spirit god realm as well. Jun Yu sighed with emotion. What? Xian Yanjuan has stepped into the domain enlightened spirit god realm as well? Fairy Sandalwood, Jing Kongling, and the others were shocked. It's absolutely true. I heard the seniors mention it as well. Moreover, Yang Patian has broken through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm as well. Kong Xian said with an extremely solemn expression. Jing Kongling and the others gasped and were extremely shocked. Lu Ming was extremely shocked as well. The people Kong Xian and the others spoke of earlier were the 5 great figures of the central continent. Among them, Long Chen was even known as the #1 genius in the world. He was peerlessly powerful and had broken through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm during the Battle of Providence. He was undoubtedly the #1 genius in the younger generation of the central continent. Xian Yanjuan and Yang Patian were also 2 of the 5 great figures of the central continent. Now, all of them had broken through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm. All of these great figures were less than 30 years old, yet they'd already reached such a level. It was truly terrifying. Especially Xian Yanjuan. When Lu Ming was still very weak in the eastern wasteland, Lu Ming had met Xian Yanjuan once. She was Xian Yanqing's older sister. Lu Ming was shocked when he heard Xian Yanjuan's name in the beginning. Now, he was even more shocked. He hadn't expected that Xian Yanjuan had already broken through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm. Xian Yanjuan was the #1 genius of the ancient sacred dynasty Xia clan, and she was peerlessly beautiful. She wasn't just one of the 5 great figures of the central continent, she was also one of the 5 great beauties of the central continent. Such a figure was truly peerlessly rare. Lu Ming had always suspected that Xian Yanjuan had concealed her cultivation when he met Xian Yanjuan. Xian Yanjuan and Yang Patian have broken through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm. I wonder how the other 2 are doing. Jing Kongling sighed with emotion. The other 2 she spoke of were the other 2 of the 5 great figures. They were peerless geniuses of the demon race. I don't know. I haven't received any news, but I'm guessing that the other 2 are absolutely not weak. Kong Xian said. The expressions of everyone present were slightly solemn. The 5 great figures of the central continent had broken through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm one after another. They understood that the younger generation of the central continent was about to step into the era of domain enlightened spirit god realm. The figures of the younger generation would start to catch up and even surpass the figures of the older generation and walk to the peak of the continent. The pressure on them was extremely great, extremely great. In the eyes of some other geniuses and geniuses, every single one of them was high and mighty, and they were targets that they had to chase up to. However, when they stood at such a height, they looked at things from a different perspective. They looked at geniuses of the same level or even geniuses of a higher level, such as the 5 great figures of the younger generation. Only by comparing oneself with those who were more powerful would one feel pressure and motivation to constantly surpass oneself and achieve breakthroughs. Everyone drank and chatted at the same time. Sometimes they talked about martial arts, sometimes they talked about some secret news. Lu Ming learned a lot of things that he had never heard of before. After 3 rounds of drinking, everyone stood up and said goodbye. Thank you, Sandalwood Fairy, for giving me so much good wine. I'll take my leave now and return to the World Academy to cultivate in seclusion. Otherwise, I'll really fall behind. Kong Xian cupped his fists at Sandalwood Fairy. Brother Kong, you're welcome. Sandalwood Fairy smiled. Brother Lu, we hit it off today. If you have the chance in the future, you can find me at the World Academy. Then, Kong Xen looked at Lu Ming. Sure. Lu Ming said with a smile. Kong Xen nodded and stepped into the air. Then, Yin Bupo and Jing Kongling also left. Sandalwood Fairy, I'll take my leave too. Lu Ming cupped his fists and turned to leave. Brother Lu, please wait a moment. Why don't you stay and have a drink with me? Chapter 1030. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat when Sandalwood Fairy called out to him. The others were also surprised. Some third-class geniuses looked at Lu Ming in surprise. Sandalwood Fairy actually invited Lu Ming to stay behind and have a drink with her. What was the meaning of this? Could it be that Sandalwood Fairy had taken a liking to Lu Ming? At the thought of this, many young men stared at Lu Ming with burning eyes, full of envy and jealousy. Lu Ming secretly complained in his heart. Most likely, they were going to ask about the incident of him stealing the medicine. Ha, Brother Lu, Wen Jing and I will take our leave first. Chu Kuang cupped his fists at Lu Ming and Sandalwood Fairy. His eyes blinked hard at Lu Ming with a look of admiration. Lu Ming was speechless. He didn't want to stay behind. Soon, everyone left. Only Lu Ming and Sandalwood Fairy were left at the scene. Brother Lu, from the looks of it, you seem very reluctant. Is Sandalwood so unattractive? Why is Brother Lu in such a hurry to leave? Sandalwood Fairy chuckled and looked at Lu Ming with blinking eyes. Ahem, you're too kind. Sandalwood Fairy's beauty is unparalleled in the world. It's my honor to be able to stay behind and have a drink with you. I'm afraid many people would be envious. Lu Ming coughed twice and smiled. Brother Lu, please. Sandalwood Fairy waved her hand. Lu Ming and Sandalwood Fairy took their seats. Brother Lu, I've never seen you before. I wonder which force you're from. Sandalwood Fairy poured a glass of wine for Lu Ming and asked curiously. I'm not from any big force. I followed my master since I was young and cultivated in the mountains. It wasn't until recently that my master let me out of the mountains. Lu Ming made up a story. Is that so? Then your master must be a famous expert. Otherwise, he couldn't have taught Brother Lu such an outstanding disciple. Sandalwood Fairy asked tentatively. Then, she raised her wine cup and took a sip. Her beautiful eyes glowed as she looked at Lu Ming. Sandalwood Fairy's face was slightly pale, but there was a sense of gentleness to her that made people want to protect her. They couldn't bear to touch her, and they had the impulse to tell her all their secrets. Now that the two of them were alone, facing such a beauty, Lu Ming couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. She took a deep breath and suppressed the feelings in her heart, calming herself down. The 5 beauties of Zhongzhou State really deserved their reputation. Fairy, Master's name is a taboo. He told me not to tell outsiders. Please forgive me. I will punish myself with a cup of wine. Lu Ming raised his wine cup and drained it in one gulp. Sandalwood Fairy giggled and did not ask any more questions. She continued to pour wine for Lu Ming. Next, Sandalwood Fairy and Lu Ming drank and chatted casually, but they never mentioned the theft of the medicine that day. After a long while, Lu Ming couldn't help but say, Fairy, the matter of the spiritual medicine that day was done by my pet. I didn't discipline it well. I will compensate you in full in the future. Sandalwood Fairy smiled slightly and said, some spiritual medicine is not worth mentioning. Brother Lu can take it. You don't need to compensate. What I'm curious about is not this. If I'm not wrong, Brother Lu doesn't have any spiritual fire at all, but you can come and go freely in my formation. I'm very curious about this. How did Brother Lu do it? Ha, luck, that's all luck. I was just walking around randomly that day. Lu Ming laughed and continued to talk nonsense. Sandalwood Fairy seemed to be dissatisfied with Lu Ming's answer. She rolled her eyes at Lu Ming. This look was coquettish and angry, with a sense of hidden bitterness. It made Lu Ming's heart beat fiercely a few times. In front of such a beauty, in front of such a gaze, how many people could be as calm as water? Unless they weren't men. Lu Ming was naturally a normal man. However, Sandalwood Fairy didn't ask much. Everyone had their secrets. Since Lu Ming didn't want to talk about it, it wasn't good to ask. The two chatted for a while more. Lu Ming said goodbye to Sandalwood Fairy. "Brother Lu, come find me in Medicine King Valley when you have time," Sandalwood Fairy said. "Definitely." Lu Ming cupped his fists and left the alchemy department. After leaving the alchemy department, Lu Ming let out a long breath. Although Sandalwood Fairy looked weak, the pressure she gave off was not small. Lu Ming could feel that Sandalwood Fairy's martial cultivation was very low. However, her mental strength was incomparably terrifying, like a turbulent ocean. The pressure she gave off was stronger than Sanguinarum, Yin Bupo, and the others. "I'm afraid Sandalwood Fairy has lit 10 mental strength lamps. Otherwise, she wouldn't give off such a strong pressure," Lu Ming whispered to himself. Although he defeated Sanguinarum, he didn't dare to underestimate the other Sky Prides. Those who could become second-class Sky Prides had the potential to become sovereigns. None of them could be underestimated. Moreover, even among second-class Sky Prides, there were strong and weak ones. Shaking his head to get rid of these distracting thoughts, Lu Ming returned to the inn and met Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing. "Brother Lu, we plan to return to the floating mountain for closed-door cultivation for a while. What about you? Where do you plan to go?" Chu Kuang asked Lu Ming. "I plan to travel and cultivate while heading to the ancient Saint Dynasty," Lu Ming said. "All right. Take care, Brother Lu. We'll meet again if we have the chance." Chu Kuang, Zheng Wenjing, and Lu Ming bid farewell and left not long after. Not long after Chu Kuang and Zhang Wenjing left, Lu Ming also left Elixir City and headed towards the west. After leaving Elixir City, Lu Ming leaped into the air and flew away in an instant. However, after flying for tens of thousands of miles, Lu Ming frowned and stopped. This was because ever since he left Elixir City, he vaguely felt that someone was following him. "Who is it? Come out." Lu Ming's gaze turned to the back. "Hee, your spiritual senses are quite sharp." With a sneer, two figures stepped into the air and appeared in front of Lu Ming. Cold Blood Hall's spiritual gods. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and a hint of seriousness appeared in his eyes. They were two middle-aged burly men. One was bald, and the other had a big beard. They wore blood-red robes. Most importantly, Lu Ming could not see through their auras at all. They were definitely not spiritual embryo realm martial artists, but spiritual god realm martial artists. There were actually two spiritual god realm martial artists following him from Cold Blood Hall. "Do you want to avenge Sanguinarum?" Lu Ming asked as the true core in his body began to circulate. He did not dare to be careless in the face of spiritual god realm martial artists, let alone two of them. "Hee, it's one thing to avenge young Master Shui Luo. Young Master Shui Luo said that you have mastered a secret technique that has a powerful devouring power. Hand it over and perhaps we'll let you die a quick death." The bald man sneered. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. It turned out that Sanguinarum had taken a fancy to his devouring technique. That was indeed the case. Cold Blood Hall's devouring technique was somewhat similar to the Nine Dragons' devouring technique, but their effects were vastly different. Sanguinarum was naturally tempted. "It won't be that easy to kill me." A hint of madness flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. "Is that so? You're really confident. However, no matter how talented you are, you're only in the spiritual embryo realm. Now, I'll show you the difference between the spiritual embryo realm and the spiritual god realm." The bald man's eyes flashed fiercely, and then he said to the bearded man, "I'll attack, and you'll hold the line. How about that?" "Sure." Chapter 1031. Boom! A terrifying aura burst forth from the bald man's body. Boundless blood-colored light danced around his body like flames, making him look like a demon that had crawled out from hell. He was incomparably sinister. Roar! 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 Inside Lu Ming's body, there were continuous dragon roars. There were 6 dragon roars consecutively. Facing a spirit god expert, Lu Ming didn't dare to hold back and burst forth with 6 dragon powers. Lu Ming's body couldn't withstand the power of 6 dragon powers exploding together. His body became even more sturdy as purplish gold scales drilled out from under his skin and covered his entire body. His claws also became like dragon claws. The bald man's pupils contracted and he sneered, "Insignificant skill, blood axe strike, chop." The bald man took a step forward and the blood-colored light around his body condensed into a blood-colored battle axe. He waved the battle axe and chopped down at Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming clenched his fist and executed hell-suppressing heaven skill. He burst forth with 5 types of concepts at the same time and punched towards the bald man. The fist and the blood axe collided and gave off a terrifying tremor. The space warped rapidly and a sinister crack appeared. After a loud bang, Lu Ming's body trembled and he retreated frantically. He took several steps in the sky and made the sky explode. He only stopped after retreating 100 meters. However, that was all. Lu Ming wasn't injured. On the other side, the bald man's body also trembled and he retreated a few steps. Impossible! The bald man roared in anger and his eyes were filled with disbelief. The big bearded man was the same as he looked at the scene in disbelief. Lu Ming had actually forced the bald man to retreat. How was that possible? Lu Ming was only at the early stage of the 9th level of Spirit Embryo Realm. How could he have such terrifying battle power? You were still holding back when you fought with young Master Shualuo? The bald man's eyes were filled with astonishment which then turned into cold killing intent. 1st level of Spirit God. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. This bald man was at the 1st level of the Spirit God realm, and Lu Ming estimated that the bloodline he had awakened shouldn't be too high. He stared at the bald man without replying. "Brat, don't think that you can fight me just because you blocked one of my moves. Die, die." The bald man flew into a rage out of humiliation. His killing intent surged like a tide. He held the blood axe in his hand and continuously chopped at Lu Ming. Lu Ming unleashed the suppressing hell heavenly art, unleashing a barrage of attacks as he engaged in a fierce battle with the bald man. Boom! 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 Horrifying explosions rang out continuously. Lu Ming circulated his 5 states to their limits, frantically blocking the attacks. Although he was completely at a disadvantage and was suppressed by the bald man, he managed to resist. After a dozen exchanges, Lu Ming was forced back several thousand meters. That bearded man was still behind Lu Ming. Boom! Another move. After a huge boom, Lu Ming retreated, spitting out a mouthful of blood. In the end, he'd been injured, but his eyes were extremely bright. Ha ha ha! This is the combat strength of the domain enlightened spirit god realm? It's nothing much. Lu Ming roared with laughter and mocked intentionally. This bald man's combat strength was probably at the bottom of the domain enlightened spirit god realm. In the domain enlightened spirit god realm, even if they were at the same level, the difference in combat strength would be extremely great. For example, existences that had comprehended god rank martial techniques were much stronger than those that hadn't. On the other hand, this bald man hadn't comprehended a god rank martial technique, and he'd only utilized a high-grade half-god rank martial technique. Besides that, the comprehension of concepts and the level of bloodline determined the strength of one's combat strength. This bald man wasn't very strong in all aspects, and that was why Lu Ming was able to resist him. Otherwise, if it was a first-level domain enlightened spirit god realm expert that had comprehended a god rank martial technique, then Lu Ming would absolutely be unable to resist him. Damn it! Kid, you're courting death. The bald man roared furiously. He'd actually been underestimated by Lu Ming, underestimated by an ant at the spirit embryo realm. This made the bald man go mad. A blood-red battle axe floated above his head, and it had 3 golden chakras coiled around it. A third-grade god-rank bloodline was considered to be an extremely low-level bloodline amongst domain-enlightened spirit god realm experts. The bald man transformed into a blood-red battle axe and slashed at Lu Ming with even more terrifying might. Are you the only one with a bloodline? The hell-suppressing steel's bloodline appeared above Lu Ming's head, and his 5 chakras flickered. Lu Ming transformed into the hell-suppressing steel and erupted with the hell-suppressing heaven art to collide with the blood-red battle axe. Boom! A world-shaking rumble resounded as the hell-suppressing steel was blasted flying. The blood-red battle axe was blasted back as well. Damn it! Attack together and cripple him. The bald man roared loudly. Kill! The bearded man shouted as a blood lion appeared above his head. It was also a third-grade god-rank bloodline. He transformed into a blood lion and pounced at Lu Ming. He clawed at the hell-suppressing steel and slapped it away. The hell-suppressing steel trembled non-stop. Despicable and shameless. 2 domain-enlightened spirit gods actually joined forces to fight me. Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by the world if this spreads out? Lu Ming shouted loudly. As long as I kill you, I'll know. Kill! The blood-red battle axe instantly arrived in front of the hell-suppressing steel and slashed at Lu Ming. Suppress! The hell-suppressing steel glowed. This time, Lu Ming erupted with all his true essence and executed the hell-suppressing heaven art. The true essence in his body was instantly sucked clean. Clang! The hell-suppressing steel and the blood-red battle axe collided, and both of them retreated a few hundred meters. Lu Ming did not have any quintessential essence left in his body, but the quintessential essence in the primordial stone gushed into Lu Ming's body, replenishing his quintessential essence. Lu Ming's quintessential essence was full in an instant. Kill! You must kill him. The bald man's heart was filled with shock, and he was extremely shocked. Sanguinarum told him that Lu Ming's combat strength was at most a bit stronger than his. But now, he realized that Lu Ming's combat strength was more than just a bit stronger than Sanguinarum's. Lu Ming was able to block his attack and even send him flying. This was unbelievable. Roar! The blood lion roared and charged at Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming had just retreated, so he didn't have time to counterattack. The blood lion's claw landed heavily on the hell-suppressing steel, and the steel collapsed instantly. But at the moment when the steel collapsed, a dragon roar sounded and a true dragon flew out. No, it wasn't a true dragon, but 9 dragons. 9 dragons. The blood lion turned pale with fright. He actually saw the legendary form of 9 dragons. Lu Ming unleashed his 9 dragons bloodline the moment the hell-suppressing steel's bloodline was destroyed. He transformed into 9 dragons and flew out. The 9 dragon claws stepped through the air and blasted towards the blood lion with terrifying force. The blood lion was shocked and couldn't unleash his full strength, so the 9 dragons rushed past him. Let's go! Lu Ming didn't hesitate to use the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps to escape the encirclement. With his current combat strength, he still wasn't a match for a spirit god. He wouldn't even be a match for 1, let alone 2. If he continued to fight, he would only die from exhaustion in the end. Damn it! Chase him! The blood-red battle axe transformed back into the bald man and chased after Lu Ming with a furious roar. The blood lion also transformed back into human form and chased after Lu Ming. Chapter 1032. After a few 100,000 kilometers, Lu Ming charged into a mountain forest and transformed into his human form. A spear condensed in his hand, and the spear started to spin rapidly like a drill. Lu Ming charged into the ground, and the spear drilled a hole in the ground. Lu Ming charged in while his true essence burst forth at the same time, causing the hole behind him to collapse and seal it up. Lu Ming kept drilling underground, and he only stopped after drilling for around 50 kilometers. With a thought, Lu Ming appeared within the mountain and river diagram. There was only one mountain and river diagram in the depths of the ground. As soon as Lu Ming entered the mountain and river diagram, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Earlier, he'd been struck by the blood lion twice in succession, and he'd still suffered quite heavy injuries. The domain enlightened spirit god realm is really formidable. I'm not even a match for the most ordinary domain enlightened spirit god realm expert. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. The bald man and large bearded man were absolutely at the bottom of the domain enlightened spirit god realm, and they were inferior in all aspects. However, Lu Ming was still not a match for them and was slightly inferior. Earlier, he'd already erupted with his strongest combat strength and used all his abilities. Even then, he was still at a disadvantage when facing the bald man alone. Unless he executed the hell-suppressing heaven art with his full strength and executed his strongest attack, only then would he be on par with the bald man. However, Lu Ming's strongest attack would exhaust his true essence after executing a single move. If it wasn't for the origin stones, he wouldn't dare to use it at all. Once I break through to the consummate stage of the spirit embryo realm, I won't be afraid of the weakest domain enlightened spirit gods, and I'll even be able to suppress them. Lu Ming summarized his strength. After that, he circulated the true dragon of battle and started to heal his injuries. Right after Lu Ming entered the mountain and river diagram, the bald man and the large bearded man appeared in the sky above the mountain forest. Damn it! Why did that kid's aura vanish? The bald man roared furiously. He's probably gone into hiding. Let's force him out. A cold light flickered in the large bearded man's eyes as he blasted his palm downwards. An enormous blood-red palm print that was 10 kilometers in length and width blasted towards the ground as it covered the sky. Boom! The mountain peak exploded, and the ground caved in. On the ground, a huge palm print that was 10 miles wide and 10 miles deep appeared. Around the palm print, countless cracks spread out in all directions like a spider web. Countless demonic beasts were turned into ashes by this palm. Then force him out. The bald man waved his hands, and countless terrifying blood-red light slashed toward the vast land. Boom! 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 Mountain peaks exploded one after another, ancient trees collapsed, and the earth caved in. Countless living beings were turned into ashes under the attacks of the two of them. This region was like the end of the world. The destructive force of a domain enlightened spirit god's full strength was truly too shocking. Soon after, everything within a range of 1,000 li became a mess. The great earth was split apart and pierced through. All kinds of deep pits and fissures covered the entire area. The mountains that were originally full of vitality had become deathly still. More than 10 minutes later, the bald man and the bearded man stood in the air with ugly expressions. There was no trace of Lu Ming, nor was there any trace of Lu Ming. Lu Ming had fled just like that. They were two dignified domain enlightened spirit god realm experts, and they originally thought it was a matter that was in the bag. Yet now, Lu Ming had fled, and they didn't know how to explain it to Sanguinarum when they returned. Damn it! I'll definitely skin him alive and pull out his tendons the next time I see him. The bald man gnashed his teeth. Forget it, let's return. The ancient herb garden is more important. After spending so much time, it's finally about to be opened, said the bearded man. The bald man nodded, and then the two of them flashed out and left this place. 50 kilometers underground, Lu Ming was recuperating with all his might within the mountain river diagram. One day later, Lu Ming's injuries had already recovered. Earth concept seems to have loosened slightly. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. After the battle from before, Lu Ming noticed that his earth concept that had fallen into a bottleneck had finally loosened, and it showed signs of breaking through. Immediately, Lu Ming placed the Enlightenment ancient tree beside him, closed his eyes, and comprehended with all his might. In the blink of an eye, 2 days passed. 2 days later, 5 colored concepts surrounded Lu Ming's body, and his aura was even stronger than 2 days ago. Earth concept has finally broken through to level 3 perfection. Lu Ming opened his eyes, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Now, the water concept was at level 4 entry, and the wind, fire, thunder, and earth concepts were all at level 3 perfection. Now that Lu Ming had unleashed all 5 concepts, his power was even stronger than a few days ago. Because previously, the earth concept was only at level 3 greater mastery. If I were to face Sanguinarum now, even if I don't fully unleash the hell-suppressing heaven skill and bloodline, I can still suppress him. Lu Ming thought in his heart. It's been 3 days, those 2 guys should have left by now. Let's go out and take a look. With a thought, Lu Ming came out of the mountain river diagram, and then continued to condense a long spear. He drilled into the ground and went to the surface. Soon, Lu Ming appeared on the surface silently. Looking at the mess and desolation around him, Lu Ming was speechless. He knew very well that the bald man and his companion must have wantonly destroyed the surroundings in order to find him. Looks like they've already left. Humph, Sanguinarum, I'll settle this score sooner or later. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes, and he was about to go to the west. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes moved, and he looked in the direction of the south. In an unknown distance, a green beam of light shot up into the sky. What's that? Could a treasure have appeared? Lu Ming was secretly surprised. Spiritual herbs, I can feel the aura of countless spiritual herbs. Go, Lu Ming, go. Dandan appeared on Lu Ming's shoulder and shouted while his little eyes glowed. Alright, let's go take a look. Lu Ming's figure flashed towards the beam of light. At this moment, the beam of light could be seen in an area of 50,000 kilometers. The beam of light shot into the sky. A treasure has definitely appeared. Let's go take a look. Let's go, this is my great fortune. Everyone who saw the pillar of light from all directions rushed towards it. Ha, this fortune is mine. A crimson-haired old man with a soaring aura charged towards the beam of light. Surprisingly, he was a domain god. The appearance of a treasure had drawn the attention of everyone. In next to no time, Lu Ming approached the area of the beam of light. It was a boundless expanse of mountains and forests. It's actually here. Lu Ming stopped in midair and was slightly surprised. Lu Ming was very familiar with the forest ahead because he, Chu Kuang, and Zhang Wenjing had passed through this forest on their way to the Sky Pillar. They had even met a domain god expert of Cold Blood Hall here, who had massacred an entire town to heal his injuries. Lu Ming and the other 2 had also fought a great battle with him. Lu Ming had originally headed west, but he had chosen a random direction when he fled after the battle with the bald man. He did not expect to come here. Could it be that the injured domain god expert of Cold Blood Hall was related to this beam of light? Did Cold Blood Hall discover some ruins here? Chapter 1033. That injured domain enlightened spirit god from before was in this forest, and now, that pillar of light was in this forest as well. So, Lu Ming had no choice but to link the 2 together. Looks like even if there are treasures here, it isn't so easy to obtain. There's definitely a domain enlightened spirit god here. Lu Ming thought to himself. However, he didn't retreat just like that. He restrained his aura instead, descended into the forest, and dashed towards the pillar of light. Swoosh! Swoosh! When he was about to approach the pillar of light, the sound of air being torn apart resounded from other directions, and then Lu Ming noticed 3 robust men and 2 old men. Their figures were moving forward with extreme speed, and they charged into a circle of light. They were cultivators that had been drawn over from the surroundings. What a large grand formation. When he approached the pillar of light, Lu Ming sensed that he was enveloped by an extremely enormous grand formation. There was a gap at the side of the grand formation that formed a circle of light, and the green pillar of light had erupted from this gap. Extremely dense spirit energy effused out from the gap. Obviously, a gap had been broken open in the grand formation. Lu Ming, it's very likely that there's a medicinal garden here. I smell the smell of spirit herbs. Danden's nose twitched as he sniffed with all his might. A medicinal garden? Could it be the Medicine King Valley's medicinal garden? Lu Ming was shocked. The Medicine King Valley wasn't far from here, so Lu Ming immediately thought of the Medicine King Valley when he heard about a medicinal garden. It shouldn't be. This grand formation is very terrifying, but an extremely long time has passed since it was set up. According to my guess, it's probably over 1,000,000 years ago, said Danden. Over 1,000,000 years ago? Lu Ming was shocked. Wasn't 1,000,000 years ago during the ancient times? This is an ancient medicinal garden. Come, let's go in and take a look. Lu Ming's figure flashed, and he charged into the circle of light and vanished. The ancient medicinal garden was sealed off by a grand formation. So many years had passed, so perhaps there were extremely precious spirit herbs within it, and Lu Ming didn't want to miss this opportunity. Inside the circle of light, there were also mountains and forests, but the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was much denser, dozens of times denser than outside. Moreover, there was another type of energy within the spiritual chi, origin chi. Lu Ming looked around and found that the flowers, plants, and trees here were more lively and luxuriant. Lu Ming, let's go. I can smell the scent of spiritual herbs. Danden yelled and sprinted forward with its short legs. Lu Ming followed Danden as they moved forward, carefully observing their surroundings. We came too late. Some of the spiritual herbs have been dug out. Along the way, Danden found a few pits and sighed. Judging from the remnant aura of the spirit herbs, it was very likely that they were all level 8 spirit herbs. Level 8 spirit herbs were dozens of times more precious than level 7 spirit herbs. It was clear that many people had already entered before, and the spiritual herbs had all been dug out. Danden didn't go straight ahead. Instead, it flew to the left. After thousands of miles, they finally found 2 spirit herbs. Both were level 8 spirit herbs. Danden dug them out happily and stuffed them into its mouth. Then, as they moved forward, they found many spirit herbs, all of which were at least level 7, and many of which were level 8. Lu Ming didn't fight with Danden. He gave them all to Danden. Now that his physical body had reached the complete level 8, ordinary level 8 spirit herbs would be useless if he wanted to break through to level 9. Only level 9 spirit herbs could help Lu Ming break through. It was not easy to cultivate a level 9 physical body, because it was the highest realm of the physical body, and also the foundation of breaking through to the martial emperor realm. Only by cultivating the physical body to the complete level 9 could one break through to the martial emperor realm. However, it was difficult to break through to the level 9 physical body, and even more difficult to reach the complete level. In fact, many second-class and even third-class geniuses in the Middle Continent had cultivated their physical bodies to the peak of level 8. After all, he was a genius from an overlord force. His physical body cultivation technique was definitely top-notch. It was not inferior to Lu Ming's 10,000 spirit battle body. In fact, it might even be better. Furthermore, he did not lack resources. Naturally, his physical body was strong. What Lu Ming needed were level 9 spirit herbs. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, a deafening roar came from the front. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. Someone was fighting. Let's go and take a look. Lu Ming grabbed Danden and went forward. In front of him, 2 elders were attacking another 2 people. One of them was a middle-aged man, and the other was a young woman. At this moment, the man and the woman were completely at a disadvantage. The two elders were both at the complete spirit embryo realm, and the middle-aged man was also at the complete spirit embryo realm. He was locked in a fight with one of the elders. On the other hand, the young woman was only at the 6th level of the spirit embryo realm. Although she was also a genius with strong battle power, she wasn't a match for the elder at the complete spirit embryo realm. She could be killed at any time. Miss! The middle-aged man roared angrily and wanted to help, but he was held back by the other party and couldn't leave. Hee, die. One of the elders sneered. At this moment, Lu Ming had already approached silently. When he saw that the strongest was only at the complete spirit embryo realm, he instantly relaxed. That's Zhou Xin. Lu Ming's gaze moved as he recognized the woman. Back in Pill City, it was Zhou Xin who gave Lu Ming a purple jade that contained vitality stones. Lu Ming was quite grateful to Zhou Xin. Now that Zhou Xin was in trouble, he naturally wouldn't leave her in the lurch. Swoosh! He flashed out and rushed towards the elder who was attacking Zhou Xin. Hearing the commotion, the few of them looked towards Lu Ming. It's you. Zhou Xin's gaze moved as she recognized Lu Ming. A brat at the 9th level of the spirit embryo realm, you're courting death. The elder grinned and revealed a sinister look. His claws were like knives as he grabbed towards Lu Ming. Swoosh! Lu Ming waved his hand and a ray of spear light pierced out. It destroyed all the attacks and defenses of the elder and stabbed towards the heart of the elder's brows. No, spare my life. The elder was horrified. He knew that he had met a terrifying genius, but it was already too late. Puff! The elder was pierced through by the spear light and died. When the other elder who was fighting with the middle-aged man saw this, he was scared out of his wits and ran away. However, a ray of spear light flashed by and nailed the elder to the ground. Zhou Xin was slightly stunned. From the moment Lu Ming appeared, the two experts with perfected spirit embryos were instantly assassinated by Lu Ming. They did not have the slightest ability to resist. Miss Zhou, I didn't expect to meet you here. Do you still remember me? Lu Ming smiled slightly. Young Master Lu, I didn't expect you to be so strong. Zhou Xin's beautiful eyes flashed as she was slightly surprised. To be able to kill two experts with perfect spirit embryo realms so easily, Zhou Xin guessed that Lu Ming was most likely a third-class genius. Miss! The man came to Zhou Xin's side and called out with concern. Uncle Lu, I'm fine. This is young Master Lu. Zhou Xin introduced. Thank you for saving me, young Master Lu. The middle-aged man cupped his fists, but there was some vigilance in his eyes. Young Master Lu, are you also here to look for spirit herbs? Zhou Xin asked. That's right. I was attracted by the light pillar, so I came to take a look. There's another great battle over there. Lu Ming's eyes flickered, and he quickly headed in that direction. Several hundred li later, Lu Ming appeared on a mountain peak and looked into the distance. Up ahead, there was a lake, and in the middle of the lake was a small island. A towering tree stood on the small island. The tree was rooted on the small island, but its crown was extremely huge. Its surface area was even larger than the small island. There were fruits on the tree. The fruits looked the size of a plate. They were fiery red and filled with surging energy. That's the vermilion sky fruit. Lu Ming recognized the fruit and was shocked. Then, he was overjoyed. The vermilion sky fruit was an extremely rare but extremely precious fruit. This fruit contained extremely powerful and pure energy. If a martial artist consumed it, it could help them break through to the next realm. As long as the concept of heaven and earth reached a certain level, consuming this fruit could help one quickly increase their true essence and break through to the next realm. This fruit was too precious. The spirit embryo realm and the spirit god realm behind it weren't as simple as comprehending concepts. Some people had reached a certain level of concept, but their cultivation wasn't that easy to increase. For example, many second-class prodigies, such as Sanguinarum and Junyu, had reached the 4th level of concept. However, their cultivation was still stuck in the spirit embryo realm. From this, it could be seen that concepts were difficult to comprehend and increase one's cultivation. Even if Lu Ming had the bloodline of the 9 dragons, it would be troublesome for him to increase his cultivation unless he could devour spirit gods or refine large amounts of origin stones. However, once he obtained the vermilion sky fruit, his cultivation would increase rapidly. I must obtain this vermilion sky fruit. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. As long as he obtained a few vermilion sky fruits, Lu Ming's cultivation would be able to break through to the perfected spirit embryo realm. This was because his concept of heaven and earth had already met the requirements. However, he wasn't in a hurry because the vermilion sky fruit tree was protected by a large formation. A layer of light screen enveloped the vermilion sky fruit tree. 7 martial artists were constantly bombarding the light screen in an attempt to break the large formation. The light screen formed by the large formation trembled continuously as though it had been there for a long time. It's about to break. Someone's eyes flickered with a fiery glow as he looked at the others warily. They had joined forces to break the large formation previously. Now that the large formation was about to break, they began to harbor their own ulterior motives. Swoosh! Suddenly, a sword light flashed. One of the green-robed elders attacked an old woman beside him. I knew you would make a move. The old woman gave a shout and waved both her palms, striking out palm prints as she fought with the elder. Wang! A metal rod swept out and struck towards the green-robed elder. The green-robed elder was caught off guard and was struck on the head. He didn't even have time to scream before he was killed. Courting death, kill. The one who's going to die is you. Before the large formation was broken, the remaining 6 people were in a complete mess as they started to fight each other. These people were all experts and were at least at the 6th level of spirit embryo realm. They were rogue cultivators that were attracted by the light pillar nearby. Once the battle started, in a few breaths' time, there were 2 consecutive screams as 2 people with weaker cultivations were killed. The battle between the remaining 4 people became even more intense. At this moment, a figure walked over in the air. Jing Kongling. Lu Ming was slightly astonished. The woman who walked over in the air was stepping on the clouds. Her entire body was shrouded in clouds, making her look like an ethereal fairy. If she wasn't Jing Kongling, who else could she be? Jing Kongling. The 4 people who were in the middle of a great battle were shocked when they saw Jing Kongling. They stopped what they were doing and had grave expressions. The heavenly vermilion fruit is mine, you guys can leave. Jing Kongling's voice was very calm and ethereal. No emotions could be heard from her voice. Jing Kongling, aren't you being too overbearing? We were the ones who discovered this heavenly vermilion fruit tree first and we are about to break the large formation. Now that you have appeared, you want to take it all for yourself. Aren't your appetite a little too big? An old woman cried out. You guys can stay forever. Jing Kongling said calmly, but the aura on her body flourished. A few streams of water appeared around her and transformed into true water dragons that danced around Jing Kongling. The 4 of them had ugly expressions on their faces. They were not willing to give up, but they knew that with their cultivation, they would die if they went against Jing Kongling. Jing Kongling was one of the top geniuses of the central continent. His combat strength was too strong. Hee, these few trash indeed have to scram first. Chapter 1035. A red-haired old man appeared. His aura was violent as he stared at the vermilion heaven fruits with a burning gaze. Venerable Chi Ku. The old woman exclaimed. The expressions of the others changed drastically as well. Even Jing Kongling's expression changed slightly as he revealed a solemn expression. Only spirit god experts could be addressed as venerables. The red-haired old man was a spirit god. Now, these vermilion heaven fruits are mine. Scram! Venerable Chi Ku's gaze was filled with killing intent as he swept the surroundings. The expressions of the old woman and the others changed drastically as their eyes were filled with reverence. Venerable Chi Ku was very famous in the nearby area. He wasn't from a large faction but a wandering cultivator. It was very remarkable for a wandering cultivator to be able to cultivate to the spirit god realm. Moreover, Venerable Chi Ku was famous for being ruthless. Let's go. Although the old woman was unwilling, the vermilion heaven fruits were naturally not worth mentioning compared to her life. She gritted her teeth and left. The other three also left the place one after another. Only Venerable Chi Ku and Jing Kongling remained in the air above the lake. Jing Kongling, you're not leaving. Venerable Chi Ku looked at Jing Kongling. Venerable Chi Ku's name isn't enough to scare me. Jing Kongling said indifferently. You want to fight me? Venerable Chi Ku's eyes flashed. I can try. Jing Kongling said. Ha, young people these days are getting bolder and bolder. You think you're a match for me with your cultivation at the peak of the 9th level of the spirit embryo realm? Venerable Chi Ku sneered. Venerable Chi Ku had lived for thousands of years and had broken through to the spirit god realm for thousands of years. In the past, no young man dared to be presumptuous in front of him. After all, the gap between the spirit embryo realm and the spirit god realm was extremely huge. But now, a young man at the peak of the 9th level of the spirit embryo realm wanted to fight him. There's always a rumor in the world that the golden age of this era will be filled with geniuses. I don't believe that a mere 9th level of the spirit embryo realm can be strong. Venerable Chi Ku sneered as fiery red flames emerged from his body. A terrifying aura pressed towards Jing Kongling. Jing Kongling waved her hands, and more water dragons appeared around her, pouncing towards Venerable Chi Kue. Boom! 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 The flames collided with the water dragon, creating a sizzling sound. Water vapor filled the air, and the scene was immediately filled with fog. Jing Kongling's jade-like feet stepped into the air. Wherever she stepped on, vines would appear. The vines were like soft whips as they wrapped around Reverend Chi Kue. Fire Devil Palm. Venerable Chi Kue clapped his palms a few times and flames burst out. The mist in the sky was burned clean. The vines were also engulfed by the flames and burned to ashes. However, more vines appeared in the air. At the same time, the lake water below churned and turned into water swords, slashing towards Reverend Chi Kue. Boom! 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 Jing Kongling and Venerable Chi Kue exchanged a few blows, and surprisingly, Jing Kongling was not at a disadvantage. The concept of wood, the concept of water, the concept of shattering, and the concept of pure emptiness. He actually cultivated 3 concepts. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Jing Kongling's battle power was very strong. He was definitely not weaker than Sanguinarum. In fact, he might even be stronger. Break! Fire Devil God Fist. Venerable Chi Kue's fists bombarded out continuously. The flaming fist force swept out in all directions, fully displaying the terrifying strength of the spirit god realm. Wherever the fist force passed, the vines exploded and the water swords were annihilated. At this moment, Jing Kongling was finally at a disadvantage. An expert of the spirit god realm was too terrifying. Void-shattering palm. Jing Kongling shouted as he continuously struck out with his palms. The palm force that contained 3 concepts turned into blue crystalline palm prints that blasted towards Venerable Chi Kue. The sky shook continuously, but Jing Kongling was still at a disadvantage and was suppressed by the flaming fist force. However, at this moment, Venerable Chi Kue was extremely shocked. These prodigies are indeed terrifying. I've only heard of them in the past, but I didn't expect them to be even more terrifying than what I've heard. She's only at the 9th level of the spirit embryo realm, but she can actually fight me. Venerable Chi Kuei was secretly shocked. At the same time, a cold killing intent flashed in his eyes. Since he had offended such a terrifying prodigy, he had to kill her. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble in the future. Come out! Venerable Chi Kuei roared as his bloodline appeared above his head. He wanted to unleash his bloodline and kill Jing Kongling in one fell swoop. His bloodline was a large dog covered in flames. He was a hellhound. However, he only had 2 golden chakras. The bloodline of Venerable Chi Kuei was only at the 2nd level of the divine level. He was weaker than the bald burly man and the bearded burly man who had chased after Lu Ming. He was the weakest in the spirit god realm. After all, it wasn't that easy for someone with a 2nd level god realm bloodline to break through to the spirit god realm. Venerable Chi Kuei had only broken through to the spirit god realm by chance. His combat strength was truly at the bottom of the spirit god realm. That was why he didn't dare to offend the other spirit gods for so many years. However, he didn't expect that even a young man would be so powerful that he could fight him. Jing Kongling frowned slightly as a round pearl appeared above her head. Water vapor lingered around the pearl, and there were 8 golden chakras shining around it. At this moment, Lu Ming stepped into the air. Lu Ming walked out, instantly attracting the attention of the 2 of them. Lu Shaoqing. Jing Kongling's eyes lit up slightly when she saw Lu Ming. On the other hand, Venerable Chi Kuei frowned. Since he dared to walk out after seeing the 2 of them fighting, he couldn't be simple. He was already very fearful of these young geniuses. Miss Kongling, why don't we join forces? We'll split the vermilion fruits equally. Lu Ming said. All right. Jing Kongling agreed without hesitation. She was no match for Venerable Chi Kuei alone. She would probably have to retreat in the end. With Lu Ming's help, they might be able to fight Venerable Chi Kuei. Lu Ming had similar thoughts. Even if he did his best, he might be able to fight Venerable Chi Kuei alone. However, it was almost impossible for him to win. That was why he walked out and joined forces with Jing Kongling. If you want to join forces to fight me, I'll kill you first. Venerable Chi Kuei roared as he transformed into a hellhound and pounced at Jing Kongling. Jing Kongling also used bloodline fusion and turned into a bead. The bead expanded rapidly and blasted towards Venerable Chi Kuei with the sound of waves. At the same time, Lu Ming unleashed 4 streams of dragon force. His body was like a stream of light as he pounced towards the hellhound. He activated the suppressing hell heaven skill and struck out with his palm. Boom! Boom! 2 explosions sounded as the 3 sides collided. Then, the hellhound staggered back. Impossible! Venerable Chi Kuei roared. He was actually repelled by the combined forces of Lu Ming and Jing Kongling. How was that possible? He roared again and pounced towards Lu Ming and Jing Kongling. The bead vibrated and the waves roared. The bead seemed to contain the water of the sea. It was extremely terrifying and could crush everything. Lu Ming's palm contained the power of the suppressing hell monument and the 5 colors wills. It was extremely terrifying. Boom! Boom! The explosions continued, but in the end, the hellhound was at a disadvantage and was suppressed. This result shocked the hellhound. Chapter 1036. In the past, Venerable Chi Kuei had always been in the vicinity and had never interacted with the world's heroes. He had long heard that this generation of geniuses was full of experts and that the combat strength of the younger generation was incomparably terrifying. However, it was only hearsay, and he did not take it to heart. No matter how great a genius was, so long as one hadn't stepped into the domain enlightened spirit god realm, then how strong could one be? But now, He realized that he was really strong, far beyond his expectations. It could only be said that his talent limited his imagination. Whoosh! Whoosh! The battle between the three of them was filled with unbridled energy. Many of the energy streams rained down on the heavenly vermilion tree, causing the light barrier around the heavenly vermilion tree to tremble violently. In the end, it actually exploded with a bang. The formation was originally about to be broken, but under the powerful strength of the three people, it was easily broken. After the formation was broken, the three's gazes landed on the heavenly cinnabar fruit. The hellhound roared and was about to pounce on the heavenly vermilion fruit tree. Don't even think about it. Lu Ming threw out a few punches in succession. Every punch seemed to be able to shatter space as it blasted towards the hell dog. At the same time, Jing Kongling also suppressed the hell dog. The two of them firmly blocked the Cerberus. Dandan! Lu Ming called out. Leave it to me. Dandan transformed into a streak of light and pounced towards the heavenly vermilion tree. If I can't get it, don't even think about getting it. The Cerberus let out a furious roar as flames burst out from its body, spreading in all directions. Some of the flames were aimed at Lu Ming and Jing Kongling, while others were aimed at the vermilion tree. He wanted to destroy the vermilion sky fruit tree. Nestle! Dandan cursed angrily as he slashed out with his claws. Suddenly, countless inscriptions appeared in the sky, forming a formation to block the flames. At the same time, he opened his mouth and sucked in the sky cinnabar fruits. After swallowing a few, he ran to the other side and grabbed a few more heaven cinnabar fruits with his claws, stuffing them into his mouth. Whoosh! Whoosh! He waved his claws and instantly grabbed a dozen heavenly cinnabar fruits. And this heaven vermilion fruit tree only had a total of a dozen heaven vermilion fruits, and almost all of them had already been plucked by Dandan. Boom! At this moment, the formation set up by Dandan was penetrated by the flames. Boundless flames rained down on the heavenly vermilion tree. Dandan couldn't be bothered to care about it. It ran away and landed on Lu Ming's shoulder. As the flames fell, the heavenly vermilion tree was instantly reduced to ashes. Hand over the vermilion fruit. Venerable Qi Kuei roared. Nonsense, kill! Lu Ming's Zhen Yuan erupted crazily. At this moment, he pushed the suppressing hell heavenly skill to the limit. His Zhen Yuan was instantly sucked dry, but the power he released was still terrifying. Under this punch, the hell dog let out a blood-curdling scream and staggered back. Then, the pure emptiness spirit's bead pressed down and forced the hell dog back. Damn it, just you wait. Seeing that there was no longer any hope of obtaining the vermilion heaven fruit, Venerable Qi Kuei left behind a ruthless sentence, turned around and left, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Wang! The bead shook, and Jing Kongling returned to his human form. She looked at Lu Ming with eyes full of surprise. Lu Ming's battle strength seemed to be stronger than when he fought with Sanguinarum. More importantly, Lu Ming had not activated his bloodline, which made her feel that Lu Ming was unfathomable. Lu Ming looked ahead and frowned slightly, saying, Miss Emptiness Spirit, someone else is coming. Let's get out of here first. Okay. Jing Kongling nodded, and the two flew away. Not long after Lu Ming and Jing Kongling left, a terrifying sonic boom came from afar, and a figure appeared in the air. If Lu Ming was here, he would recognize at a glance that this person was the bald man from Cold Blood Hall. The bald man whispered, someone was clearly fighting just now. They must be fighting for the treasure, but now they're gone. They're running pretty fast. Suddenly, the bald man raised his eyebrows and whispered, it's the aura of that boy surnamed Lu. Humph, let's see where you can run to this time. With that, the bald burly man followed the aura and chased in the direction where Lu Ming and the rest had left. Lu Ming and Jing Kongling flew for thousands of miles, and came to a valley. Dandan, how many vermilion heaven fruits did you get? Take them out. Lu Ming looked at Dandan. 15 in total. We'll split them equally. Dandan said. You want to split them equally? Lu Ming stared at him. Of course. Without me, you won't get a single one. Dandan stuck his claws in the ground, looking proud. Brother Lu, it's okay. I have 5, and that's enough. Jing Kongling said. Lu Ming nodded and said, all right, hand over the vermilion heaven fruits. Dandan opened his mouth, and 10 vermilion heaven fruits flew out. Lu Ming took 5, and Jing Kongling took the other 5. Brother Lu, thank you for your help this time. I'm going to find a place to refine the vermilion heaven fruits. I'll take my leave now. Jing Kongling cupped his fists and bid farewell to Lu Ming. I'm also going to find a place to refine the vermilion heaven fruits. Goodbye. Lu Ming also cupped his fists and did not say anything. The two of them flew in different directions. Lu Ming flew for another 1,000 miles, and then punched a small hole in a mountain. He flew in until he reached the belly of the mountain, and then entered the mountain river diagram. Not long after Lu Ming entered the mountain river diagram, the bald man arrived. The aura has disappeared again. There must be some treasure concealing the aura. The person must be nearby. I'll wait nearby. As soon as Lu appears, I'll kill him with lightning speed. The bald man's eyes flickered coldly. He then flew into the sky and hid in the clouds. Lu Ming entered the mountain river diagram and sat with his legs crossed on a mountain peak. Dandan, you must have plucked more than 15 vermilion heaven fruits, right? Lu Ming asked calmly. He knew Dandan too well. He was definitely not telling the truth. Hey, Lu Ming, what do you mean? Are you doubting me? Are you doubting my character? No, my character. Do you know that? Dandan immediately glared at Lu Ming unhappily. What's there to doubt? I don't believe that you only plucked 15 vermilion heaven fruits. Lu Ming replied calmly. Dandan was furious. Under Lu Ming's gaze, he said guiltily, all right, actually I plucked 16. I don't believe you. Lu Ming said calmly. All right, actually it was 17. You're still looking. All right, it's 18. Ha, 20, only 20, really only 20. In the end, Dandan laughed awkwardly and spat out 10 more fruits. He swore to the heavens that this was all he had. Lu Ming was speechless. He knew that this guy would keep it to himself. Lu Ming took out 3 more fruits without hesitation and left 7 for Dandan. Dandan sighed. If not for the fact that he needed Lu Ming to help him find more spiritual herbs, he would have fallen out with Lu Ming. 8 vermilion heaven fruits should be enough. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He took out a vermilion heaven fruit and enveloped it with devouring power. He began to absorb the medicinal efficacy of the vermilion heaven fruit and cultivate. Chapter 1037. Very soon, the energy of one heavenly cinnabar fruit entered Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming circulated true arts of battle dragon and the boundless energy continuously transformed into Lu Ming's true essence. The speed was unbelievably fast and there was almost no need for him to refine it. Lu Ming's cultivation rose rapidly. In just a few minutes, the energy of one heavenly cinnabar fruit had been completely refined. Lu Ming's cultivation broke through to the middle stage of the 9th level of spirit embryo realm in one go and was still rising. This was simply more boundless than the energy that Lu Ming had absorbed from dozens of martial practitioners with perfect spirit embryo. This heavenly cinnabar fruit is indeed miraculous. It can actually be refined so quickly. Lu Ming exclaimed secretly. He guessed that even normal martial practitioners wouldn't need much time to refine the heavenly cinnabar fruit. Continue. Lu Ming took out another heavenly cinnabar fruit and started to refine it. His cultivation rose like he was sitting on a rocket. Heavenly cinnabar fruit was a rare treasure of heaven and earth and it was too difficult to nurture it. The survival rate was extremely low and the probability of it bearing fruit was also extremely low. Furthermore, a heavenly cinnabar fruit tree wouldn't bear many fruits. Therefore, heavenly cinnabar fruit was almost impossible to buy outside. Its effects were too good, and even if a big power nurtured it, it wouldn't be enough. This ancient herb garden had been sealed here for a long time and there was only one heavenly cinnabar fruit tree. Now, it was destroyed. As he continued to refine, Lu Ming's cultivation rose explosively. After refining 4 heavenly cinnabar fruits, Lu Ming's cultivation rose to the 9th level of spirit embryo realm. Next, he started to break through to the perfect spirit embryo. What I cultivate is true arts of battle dragon and also super spirit C's secret technique. My true essence is much stronger than normal people. 4 heavenly cinnabar fruits might not be enough for me to break through to the perfect spirit embryo. Lu Ming pondered in his heart and couldn't help glancing at Dandan, who wasn't far away. Dandan was crossing his legs and lying on a white cloud facing the sky while gnawing on a stalk of spirit herb leisurely. As if he sensed something, Dandan turned his gaze towards Lu Ming and saw Lu Ming looking at him greedily. He shuddered and asked, "Brat, what are you trying to do?" "Dandan, lend me your 7 heavenly cinnabar fruits." Lu Ming smiled amiably. "Lend it to you? I'm not lending it to you. If I lend it to you, will I be able to return it?" Dandan shouted. "You're really not lending it?" Lu Ming's face sank and he began to fall out with him. Dandan gritted his teeth. "Alright, then in the future, if you find any spiritual herbs, don't even think about getting a single one." Lu Ming snorted. "You," Dandan glared angrily and rolled his eyes. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said, "I'll give it to you, I'll give it to you. But in the future, I'll definitely give you more spirit herbs." "Sure. Happy cooperation." Lu Ming smiled again. "How treacherous." Dandan sighed speechlessly and gave the last 7 heavenly cinnabar fruits to Lu Ming. Lu Ming had another 11 heavenly cinnabar fruits in his hands. It should be enough. Roar. 9 dragons appeared and with a long roar, they swallowed all 11 heavenly cinnabar fruits and started to refine them to break through to the next realm. Rumble. Vast and surging energy surged endlessly and rapidly transformed into true essence, helping Lu Ming to break through to the next realm. Endless true essence gathered in the spirit embryo in his dantian and transformed into even purer true essence, gushing out from the spirit embryo. During this process, the spirit embryo became more and more solid and its size became smaller and smaller. Still not enough, just a little more. Lu Ming continuously refined the energy of the heavenly cinnabar fruits. Half an hour later, the energy of all 11 heavenly cinnabar fruits was completely refined and transformed into terrifying true essence that surged within Lu Ming's body. Boom! In the end, something seemed to have been broken, and the aura on Lu Ming's body suddenly skyrocketed. Swoosh! Lu Ming opened his eyes and 2 beams of light burst out. They shot out hundreds of miles and penetrated a mountain peak. Perfect spirit embryo. A faint smile appeared on Lu Ming's face. He'd finally attained perfect spirit embryo, and the next step was to prepare to break through to the domain spirit god realm. But it wasn't so easy to break through to the domain spirit god realm. It wasn't something that could be broken through just by devouring an enormous amount of energy after attaining the domain spirit god realm. Spirit god was nurtured in the spirit embryo. Not only did it require the domain spirit god to break through to the 4th level, but it also required the fusion of one's consciousness and soul into the spirit god. In the end, the spirit embryo would shatter and the spirit god would appear. Moreover, when the spirit god appeared, a lightning tribulation would descend from the heavens. One would have to pass through the terrifying lightning tribulation to officially step into the domain spirit god realm. When breaking through to the martial king realm and condensing runes of domain spirit god realm, there would be a heavenly tribulation. Moreover, its power was extremely terrifying. Many people were annihilated by the heavenly tribulation at the last step. Lu Ming closed his eyes and looked within himself. He discovered that the spirit embryo in his dantian had already become incomparably solid. It was sparkling and translucent like a crystal. Moreover, its size was also extremely small, only the size of a watermelon. Exuberant vitality suffused from it as if it was nurturing a god. Whoosh! Lu Ming opened his eyes and let out a long breath. If I were to encounter Venerable Qi Kuei now, I would be able to kill him if I unleashed my full strength. Feeling the vast amount of true essence in his body, Lu Ming revealed a confident smile. From the early stage of the 9th level of the spirit embryo realm to the perfect spirit embryo, his true essence had increased by too much. Lu Ming's battle prowess had also increased by several times. Ha, Dandan, I'll go out and find more spirit herbs for you. After breaking through, Lu Ming was in a great mood. With a move of his body, he exited the mountain river diagram and broke through the mountain, appearing outside the mountain peak. Swoosh! Just as Lu Ming appeared outside the mountain peak, a terrifying pressure came from above his head. A blood-red axe instantly crossed the distance of 10,000 meters and violently chopped down at Lu Ming. This was a surprise attack without any warning. Lu Ming himself had never imagined that he would be attacked the moment he left the mountain peak. If Lu Ming hadn't broken through, he might have been seriously injured by this attack. But now, with a thought, the mountain river diagram appeared and covered his entire body. At the same time, vast amounts of true essence burst forth as he punched upwards. Even if he was caught off guard and mobilized his true essence at the last moment, the power of this punch was still extremely terrifying. When it collided with the blood-red axe, it gave off a huge boom. Most of the power of the blood-red axe was neutralized and the remaining power was blocked by the mountain river diagram. Lu Ming's body trembled and fell down. Just as he was about to land on the ground, Lu Ming stepped on a branch of a large tree and his body shot up into the sky again. He looked coldly at the person who had ambushed him. It was the bald burly man from Cold Blood Hall. At this moment, the bald burly man was slightly astonished. He had never thought that his surprise attack would be blocked by Lu Ming unscathed. His expression was slightly grave. You broke through in your cultivation. Once he sensed Lu Ming's aura, the bald burly man's expression changed drastically. Previously, Lu Ming's battle prowess was already extremely shocking when he was at the early stage of the 9th level of the spirit embryo realm. Now that he had broken through to the perfect spirit embryo realm, how strong would Lu Ming's battle prowess be? The bald burly man's heart was incomparably grave and also extremely inconceivable. Chapter 1038. You again. You won't be leaving today. Lu Ming's eyes were cold and filled with killing intent as he looked at the bald man. It was a good time to settle the score. Brat, don't think you can kill me just because you broke through. The bald man's face darkened. Kill. Lu Ming couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with him. The 9 dragons' bloodline appeared, and Lu Ming executed bloodline fusion to transform into 9 dragons. At the same time, the 6 dragon powers in his body erupted. A terrifying power surged in Lu Ming's body. The 9 dragons stepped forward, and the 5-colored concept revolved around them. The 9 claws clawed at the bald man. Rip! When the dragon claws clawed out, the space was torn apart like a piece of paper, causing cracks to appear. So terrifying. The bald man turned pale with fright. To be able to tear apart space with a single claw, it had already reached the level of spirit god. The bald man retreated rapidly, and the blood axe appeared above his head. He executed bloodline fusion to transform into a blood-colored battle axe and cleaved at the 9 dragons. Boom! The blood-colored battle axe clashed with the dragon claws, forming a terrifying energy storm that spread in all directions. Break! A cold voice came from the mouth of the 9 dragons, and the blood-colored battle axe was sent flying far away. The bald man fell into a disadvantageous position after one strike. How can he be so strong? The bald man roared in disbelief. Kill! The dragon claws stepped on the air, and the 9 dragons rushed to the blood-colored battle axe like flowing light. They clawed out again, and at the same time, the 9 dragons roared, and a terrifying devouring power shrouded the blood-colored battle axe. As Lu Ming's cultivation level increased and he reached the perfected spirit embryo stage, his vital essence increased tremendously. His vital essence was strong and there was more vital essence to release. The power of the hell-suppressing heaven skill also increased tremendously. Now, Lu Ming's casual move was comparable to the full power of the hell-suppressing heaven technique when he was in the early stage of the 9th level of the spirit embryo realm. If he broke through to the spirit god realm, his vital essence would be even more abundant, and he would be able to execute the hell-suppressing heaven technique more freely. Only then would he be able to unleash the true power of a god-level martial technique, which would be even more terrifying. This is, enveloped by the devouring power of the 9 dragons, the blood-colored battle axe trembled slightly, and the bald man's terrified voice could be heard. He felt that the power of his bloodline was unstable, and his strength was affected by the devouring power's devouring power. Bam! The dragon claws clawed at the blood-colored battle axe, causing it to tremble violently. After the first claw, the second, the third claw, claw after claw 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 after claw claw after claw, Lu Ming used the mountain river diagram to defend himself. He did not have to worry about his own defense at all. Bam! 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 In the sky, there were continuous explosions, and the blood-red battle axe was constantly vibrating. The bald man was completely at a disadvantage. TB. Is this still the spirit embryo realm? The bald man's mind was shaken, and fear appeared in his heart. He was too powerful. Even though he was a dignified spiritual god, he was actually suppressed by Lu Ming throughout the entire process. Go, I'll retreat first. The bald man was scared and wanted to retreat. As if he had seen through the bald man's thoughts, he spoke in a cold voice. The 9 dragons clawed at the blood-colored battle axe once again. The might of this claw was even stronger and more shocking than the previous claw. Lu Ming had erupted with his full strength and executed the hell-suppressing heaven technique with all his strength. The vital essence within his body had been completely extracted as well, but with Lu Ming's current cultivation, the might of the hell-suppressing heaven technique at full strength was much more terrifying than before. Bang! The claw slammed into the blood-red battle axe, causing it to tremble before exploding with a bang. The bald big man's figure reappeared, and he flew towards the ground like a cannonball, wildly coughing up blood in the air. Bang! The bald man smashed heavily onto the ground, causing the ground to rumble violently. Powerful shockwaves swept out in all directions, and some mountains in an area of 50 kilometers were shattered, collapsed, and shattered. The flowers, plants, and trees were all transformed into ashes. Meanwhile, the bald man was lying on the ground, and an enormous pit that was a few dozen kilometers deep had appeared on the ground. At this moment, blood was flowing wildly from the bald man's mouth, and his aura was weak while his eyes were filled with terror. Kill! The 9 dragons stepped forward and rushed down, and the dragon claw tore towards the bald man. At this moment, a steady stream of vital essence poured into Lu Ming's body from the origin receiving stone, and Lu Ming's vital essence was replenished again. However, the vital essence stored in the origin receiving stone had been completely exhausted. After all, it was the vital essence he had stored when he was at the early stage of the 9th level of the spirit embryo realm. No, don't kill me. The bald man roared in terror and wanted to resist, but he was heavily injured, so how could he resist Lu Ming? The claw light shattered all of the bald man's defenses and tore him into pieces amidst his terrified roar. Devour! The power of devouring enveloped the bald man and devoured all of his blood essence, chi, blood, and vital essence. The chi, blood, and vital essence of a spirit god realm expert was too abundant, and it surged within the 9 dragons' bloodline. Find a place to refine. With a move of his body, Lu Ming left the place and flew into the distance. Of course, he didn't let go of the bald man's storage ring. A few tens of thousands of kilometers away, Lu Ming entered a secret place, and then he entered the mountain river diagram and started to refine it. His qi, blood, and vital essence were ceaselessly converted into vital essence, and Lu Ming's cultivation improved once more. Roar! In the end, the 9 dragons roared, and a 7th chakra floated up into appearance beneath the original 6 chakras. After he devoured and refined a spirit god realm expert, the 9 dragons' bloodline improved once more, and it advanced to the 7th grade of the god realm. Along with the improvement of the 9 dragons' bloodline, another strand of dragon energy was born from his spine. There was a total of 7 strands of dragon energy. If Lu Ming erupted with all 7 strands of dragon energy, then his combat strength would undoubtedly improve once more. Unfortunately, my current body can only erupt with 4 strands of dragon energy. If I erupt with even more, then I won't be able to control it, and scales will appear. This sort of phenomenon is rather special, and it'll probably be noticed by someone with intent. Lu Ming thought to himself. Up until now, only 2 people had seen Lu Ming erupt with his full strength and Lu Ming's hell-suppressing monument bloodline and 9 dragons bloodline. They were the bald man and the bearded man. Now that the bald man is dead, there's still the bearded man. I hope he didn't tell anyone. Lu Ming pondered. The 9 dragons bloodline was too special, and no one had awakened it since ancient times. If news of it were to spread, it might really be discovered by the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Looks like I have to find an opportunity to kill that bearded man. Lu Ming pondered. In a short while, the bald man's energy was completely refined. Lu Ming took out the origin energy stone again. Now that the origin energy stone was empty, he planned to continue storing more vital essence. With the origin energy stone, he wouldn't have to worry so much during battle, and he could even erupt with his full strength from time to time. It was all thanks to the origin energy stone that he was able to kill the bald man this time. He held the origin energy stone and continuously poured his vital essence into it. When his vital essence was exhausted, Lu Ming would devour origin energy stones to recover. Half a day later, Lu Ming continuously stored vital essence in the origin energy stone a few times. It was equivalent to a few times of Lu Ming's vital essence before he stopped. Chapter 1039. Senior Jiu Yang didn't give me many origin stones now, and there's only around 500,000 left. Moreover, I haven't sorted out the storage rings I obtained from the enemies I killed during this period of time. I'll sort them out when I have the time. Hopefully, I'll gain something. Lu Ming wanted to store up some origin stones now because he would definitely need a huge amount of them when he broke through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm. With a command in his heart, Lu Ming left the mountain river diagram and continued flying towards the depths of the herb garden. Lu Ming was much more confident now that his cultivation had improved, and he was extremely swift as he flew all along the way. It wasn't long before he'd flown an entire 50,000 kilometers and arrived at the depths of the herb garden. Because even though the area of the herb garden was extremely large, it was only a few tens of thousands of kilometers. All along the way, Dandan obtained a huge amount of spirit herbs. Lu Ming's expression suddenly changed. He did not know how far ahead there was a green glow emanating from it. Lu Ming, there's definitely a rare spirit herb there. Let's go. Let's go. Dandan's eyes glowed as he cried out excitedly. Don't be impatient. If there's really a rare spirit herb there and it emanates such a glow, then it'll definitely draw some experts over. It won't be so easy to obtain it. Lu Ming said. However, he was still curious, and he flew towards the direction the glow effused out from. After 5,000 kilometers, he saw a large mountain, and the glow vanished when he arrived here. Why isn't there anyone here? Lu Ming's gaze flashed because this was different from what he'd imagined. Since the glow is emanating and can be seen from 5,000 kilometers away, then why isn't there anyone here? Is it very strange? What a dense medicinal fragrance. Lu Ming's nose twitched as he looked towards the mountain range ahead, whereas Dandan's eyes glowed brightly. Lu Ming flew over and noticed that there was a wide valley in the middle of the mountain range, and numerous trees that were over 10 m tall grew within the valley. However, the strange thing was that these trees were completely bare. There was not a single leaf on them. Even the branches seemed to have withered. However, at the top of each tree, there was a fruit growing. A rich fragrance was emitted from the fruit. It was a rich fragrance. Each tree only had one fruit. It was as if all the energy essence of the tree had been used to nurture this fruit. This is the soul-refining fruit. Lu Ming's pupils suddenly widened, bursting with blazing flames. His heart began to burn with passion. It was actually the soul-refining fruit. Lu Ming felt his breathing become heavy. The spirit-refining fruit was a spirit fruit that was even more precious than the vermilion heaven fruit. In a sense, it was many times more precious. This was because the soul-refining fruit could condense a spirit divinity. Yes, when a domain-enlightened spirit god consumed it, it could condense the domain-enlightened spirit god and cause the domain-enlightened spirit god to become even more material. Actually, on the one hand, the domain-enlightened spirit god realm had to comprehend the concept of the heavens and the earth, and on the other hand, it was the process of condensing the domain-enlightened spirit god. The soul refinement fruit was extremely tempting to domain-enlightened spirit gods. However, to martial arts practitioners of the spirit embryo realm, the temptation was even greater. This was because when a martial arts practitioner with a perfected spirit embryo ate the spirit refining fruit, the medicinal energy would seep into their spirit embryo. The moment they broke through to the spirit god realm, their spirit god would break out of the embryo and become even more corporeal. To break through to the spirit god realm, one had to go through the heavenly tribulation. The more corporeal the spirit god was, the higher the chances of passing the heavenly tribulation. To martial arts practitioners with a perfected spirit embryo, this was simply a supreme treasure. It was no wonder that Lu Ming was so excited when he saw it. There were over 100 soul refinement fruit trees in the valley below, which also meant that there were over 100 soul refinement fruits. If news of this spread out, all the martial arts practitioners with a perfected spirit embryo would go crazy. Ha, Lu Ming, there are so many soul refinement fruits. You've struck it rich. Dandan grinned, extremely excited. Why isn't anyone here? Lu Ming didn't completely lose his mind because of the soul refinement fruit. The light just now was so dazzling, so why wasn't there anyone here? Could it be that he was the first to arrive? I don't care. Lu Ming decided to pluck the soul refinement fruit first. Brother Lu, wait a moment. At this moment, a familiar voice sounded. Jing Kongling. Lu Ming's heart stirred as he recognized Jing Kongling's voice. On a mountain peak below, there was a sudden ripple, and two figures appeared. Two beautiful women, Sandalwood Fairy Mu Sandalwood and Jing Kongling. Just now, the ripple was clearly a formation set up by Sandalwood Fairy. Lu Ming didn't expect to meet the two of them here. Brother Lu, come down for a chat. Jing Kongling spoke, still transmitting her voice to Lu Ming, as though she was afraid that others would hear. Lu Ming flew down and entered the formation. Only then did he realize that Sandalwood Fairy had set up an illusory formation here. Fairy, Miss Kongling, what's going on? Lu Ming asked. From the looks of it, Sandalwood Fairy and Jing Kongling should have arrived long ago, but why didn't they pluck the soul refinement fruit? Instead, they hid on this mountain peak and used the formation to conceal themselves. There are a lot of blood ghost spiders on the soul refinement fruit tree. There are even blood ghost spiders of the spirit god realm. Those who entered before all died. Sandalwood Fairy explained. What? Blood ghost spiders? Lu Ming was shocked. That's right. You must have come here because you saw the light. Cold Blood Hall deliberately used spiritual herbs to lure you here. They wanted to lure others into the valley to help them deal with the blood ghost spiders. I discovered it early, so I hid here and waited for an opportunity. After Sandalwood Fairy's explanation, Lu Ming suddenly understood. Cold Blood Hall must have discovered the soul refinement fruit first, but they couldn't deal with the powerful blood ghost spiders themselves, so they wanted to lure others to help them deal with the blood ghost spiders so that they could reap the benefits. Sandalwood Fairy discovered this secret and secretly set up a formation to hide here. She was also the one who stopped Jing Kongling. Several groups of people had already died inside. Cold Blood Hall just went out to lure others. I think they'll be back in a while, Sandalwood Fairy said. As soon as Sandalwood Fairy's voice fell, the three of them looked to the north. There, 3 streaks of blood-red light flew rapidly, landed on a mountain peak, and disappeared. 3 spiritual gods. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. The 3 people from Cold Blood Hall were all spiritual gods. Lu Ming had seen 2 of them before. One was the bearded man, and the other was the injured Cold Blood Hall expert that Lu Ming, Chu Kuang, and Zhang Wenjing had met when they went to Pillar of Heaven's mountain. The 3 Cold Blood Hall experts hid in a mountain peak and concealed their auras. Soon, another light flashed, and 6 figures flew over rapidly. Among the 6 figures, there were white-haired elders and middle-aged men, but their auras were extremely strong. The weakest was at the 9th level of the spirit embryo realm, and there were even some who had perfected their spirit embryo realm. I clearly saw a light flash in this direction. Why did it disappear? An elder whispered. That's soul refinement fruit. Suddenly, one of them exclaimed. The others also looked at the valley, their eyes burning with desire. It's soul refinement fruit. It's really soul refinement fruit. There are so many of them. Chapter 1040. The 6 of them looked at each other. Suddenly, the 6 of them moved. They attacked together and madly rushed towards the valley. Ha! The soul refining fruit is mine. A burly man laughed and grabbed at one of the soul refining fruits. Whoosh! Suddenly, a dark red light flashed from the tree and pounced toward the burly man. What? A blood ghost spider. The burly man was shocked and used all his strength to slash at the blood ghost spider. Bam! The blood ghost spider was split in half. But in the next moment, dozens of blood ghost spiders pounced on the burly man as if they had poked a hornet's nest. Some of them were extremely powerful. Not only him, but the other 5 were also attacked by the blood ghost spiders. Damn it! The 6 of them roared and used all their strength to fight the blood ghost spiders. Puff! Puff! In the blink of an eye, dozens of blood ghost spiders died at their hands. However, one of the elders at the 9th level of spirit embryo realm screamed as a blood ghost spider pierced his forehead. Then, countless blood ghost spiders crawled onto his body. In an instant, the elder was dead. Retreat! The others turned pale with fright and wanted to retreat. Whoosh! Suddenly, a violent sound broke the air and a dark red light flashed rapidly. Puff! 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 The 5 experts were all killed in an instant. A spirit god realm blood ghost spider. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He clearly saw that it was a blood ghost spider that was the size of a fist and had an extremely powerful aura. The 6 experts were all killed in an instant and were devoured by the blood ghost spiders. The valley calmed down again. The blood ghost spiders climbed up the soul refining trees again and seemed to have become one with them. From afar, it was impossible to see the blood ghost spiders. 3 experts from Cold Blood Hall appeared in the air. What trash! One of them shouted coldly. This won't do. We can't exhaust much of the blood ghost spider's strength. There are 3 spirit god realm blood ghost spiders here. We need to be at the spirit god realm to exhaust their strength. The burly man with the beard said. Then let's attract the spirit god realm martial artists here. After making up his mind, a spirit herb appeared in the big bearded man's hand. Suddenly, a green light filled the air and shot into the sky. That's green cloud grass, a level 9 spiritual herb. Lu Ming was shocked. The spiritual grass in the big bearded man's hand was actually a rank 9 spiritual grass. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a fiery light. If he had this level 9 spiritual grass, perhaps his physical body could break through to level 9. The 3 men from Cold Blood Hall flew south this time, but they soon returned and hurriedly hid in the mountains. Not long after, 2 beams of light came from the south at a terrifying speed. Their terrifying auras were extremely powerful. 2 eagles. Lu Ming saw that they were clearly 2 eagle-shaped demonic beasts. It's an expert from the Heavenly Eagle Castle. Sandalwood whispered. The 2 eagles were obviously spiritual god-level existences. Their auras were as heavy as a mountain, and their eyes were as sharp as lightning as they scanned the surroundings. When they saw the soul-refining fruit in the valley, they immediately burst out with a fiery light. Ha! The soul-refining fruit, it's the soul-refining fruit. What a great opportunity! A giant purple eagle laughed loudly. Let's share it equally. A giant blue eagle also said. Okay. The giant purple eagle nodded. Then, the 2 eagles rushed directly into the valley. As soon as they rushed into the valley, a dense swarm of blood ghost spiders rushed toward them. Blood ghost spiders, die. The giant blue eagle opened its mouth and spat out a blue light. Wherever the light passed, the temperature dropped sharply, and the blood ghost spiders were frozen into blocks of ice. Sizzle, the giant purple eagle flapped its wings and endless purple lightning spread out. The blood ghost spiders were swept by the lightning and instantly turned into ashes. Ordinary blood ghost spiders could not stop the 2 giant eagles at all. In an instant, thousands of them were killed. Whoosh! 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 At this time, 3 beams of light flashed and attacked the 2 giant eagles. Oh no, it's a spiritual god-level blood ghost spider. The giant purple eagle roared and flapped its wings. The terrifying lightning turned into 3 lightning spears and stabbed at the 3 blood ghost spiders. At the same time, the giant blue eagle also launched a terrifying attack. A blue ice river wrapped around the 3 blood ghost spiders, trying to freeze them. However, the 3 blood ghost spiders were extremely powerful. They broke through the lightning and ice river and attacked the 2 giant eagles. The 2 giant eagles roared and fought with all their strength. Boom! Boom! After a series of collisions, the 2 giant eagles and the 3 blood ghost spiders charged into the sky. The battle in the sky was extremely intense. The 2 giant eagles and 3 blood ghost spiders should be at the first tier of class 8, which was equivalent to a first-tier spiritual god. Their combat strength was almost the same, but the 2 giant eagles had fewer people and were at a disadvantage. After thousands of blood ghost spiders were killed, the 3 class 8 blood ghost spiders seemed to be in a frenzy. They entangled the 2 giant eagles and fought fiercely. After dozens of moves, the giant purple eagle was scratched by the claws of a blood ghost spider. Immediately, blood flowed and feathers flew. Damn it! The giant purple eagle went crazy. The divine beast blood in its body was boiling. Its body seemed to have turned into lightning. It reached out with its claws and almost scratched through a blood ghost spider. Although the blood ghost spider dodged in the end, it still left a wound. Green liquid flowed out. Go first. The giant purple eagle roared and wanted to break out of the encirclement. However, the 3 blood ghost spiders entangled them tightly. They couldn't break out at all. The battle became more and more intense. In the end, a blood ghost spider seized the opportunity and attacked the giant purple eagle's abdomen. The blood ghost spider crawled into the giant purple eagle's body. Ah! The giant purple eagle screamed crazily as if it was in endless pain. It struggled madly in the air. If we die together. Finally, the purple eagle let out a loud roar. The sky was filled with lightning, and its body swelled rapidly. Then, with a loud bang, it exploded. Even the other two blood ghost spiders and the blue eagle were sent flying by the terrifying energy. In the sky filled with lightning, a blood ghost spider could be seen in the air. However, it was lifeless and had turned into a pile of charcoal. The blood ghost spider that had rushed into the giant purple eagle's body was also killed by the lightning when the giant purple eagle self-detonated. Mutual destruction. Squeak. The remaining two blood ghost spiders seemed to be extremely angry. They screamed and pounced on the giant blue eagle. The giant blue eagle roared and tried its best to escape, but it was useless. It was tightly entangled by the two blood ghost spiders. In the end, one of the blood ghost spiders was seriously injured by the giant blue eagle. However, the giant blue eagle was also killed by the two blood ghost spiders. 2 LV8 giant eagles died just like that. Of course, the blood ghost spiders also paid a heavy price. Ha, good. With a loud laugh, 3 cold blood hall experts appeared and pounced on the two blood ghost spiders. They weren't confident when there were only 3 blood ghost spiders. Now, they could finally attack. Chapter 1041. It was much easier for the 3 of them to fight the 2 injured blood ghost spiders. The 2 blood ghost spiders were completely suppressed and in imminent danger. This is a good chance. We can take the spirit-refining fruits. Sandalwood Fairy's eyes lit up. There shouldn't be any other blood ghost spiders in the spiritual god realm, right? Lu Ming asked. No, I'm very sensitive to the aura of living creatures. I'm not wrong. Sandalwood Fairy nodded. Okay, let's take the spirit-refining fruits and break out of the encirclement. Lu Ming said. The 3 of them had to work together to have a chance. Otherwise, the 3 experts from Cold Blood Hall would definitely attack them. If they did not work together, they would not be able to escape. Their figures moved, and the 3 of them rushed down the valley at the same time. Their figures were as fast as lightning. Complete spirit embryo. Lu Ming found that Jing Kongling's aura was much stronger than before. It was clear that he had reached the complete spirit embryo. Obviously, Jing Kongling had refined the vermilion fruit and made a breakthrough in his cultivation. The 3 experts from Cold Blood Hall noticed them as soon as they took action. Sandalwood Fairy, Jing Kongling, and Lu Shaoqing. Damn you, Junior, don't even think about it. The bearded man roared. The 3 experts from Cold Blood Hall were shocked by the 3's actions. They had never thought that there would be 3 top experts of the younger generation lying in ambush here, waiting for an opportunity to attack. Quick, quick! Lu Ming's vital essence burst forth. His vital essence was like a ribbon, rolling forward. A few mind-refining fruits landed in his hands and he put them away. Sandalwood Fairy and Jing Kongling were also very fast. Their vital essence swept out and the fruits fell into their hands. Take them. Without Lu Ming's command, Dandan had already rushed forward and grabbed the spirit-refining fruits, stuffing them into his mouth. Stop! The bearded man's eyes turned red. He roared and rushed toward Lu Ming. There was also a blood-robed elder who rushed toward Jing Kongling and Sandalwood Fairy. As for the injured middle-aged man that Lu Ming, Chu Kuang, and Zhang Wenjing had met on the way, he was the strongest among the 3 of them. He was fighting 2 blood ghost spiders alone. At that moment, one of the blood ghost spiders was already severely injured and on the verge of death. Only the other blood ghost spider was still fighting the middle-aged man. Bang! The heavily injured blood ghost spider suddenly exploded, filling the sky with blood-red light. When the middle-aged man was hit by the blood-red light, his face paled, and in the next moment, a trace of green gas appeared. He had been poisoned. The remaining blood-wraith spider screeched as it absorbed the bloody light in the sky. Its injuries quickly healed, and its combat strength increased greatly. For a moment, it was locked in a fierce battle with the middle-aged man. In the valley, Lu Ming immediately unleashed 4 streams of dragon force and punched with all his might. Boom! He exchanged a blow with the big bearded man. Both of them trembled and retreated. The bearded man's battle prowess was about the same as the bald man's, but Lu Ming did not use his full strength, so they were evenly matched. Your cultivation. Even so, the bearded man was still shocked. He did not expect Lu Ming's battle prowess to be so terrifying that he could actually fight with him. Roar! He transformed into a blood-red lion and pounced towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's circulated prison suppressing heavenly technique, and 5 colored concepts surrounded him as he fought with the blood-red lion. After exchanging a few blows, it was still a draw. On the other side, Sandalwood Fairy and Jing Kongling were fighting the blood-robed elder. The blood-robed elder's battle prowess was slightly higher than the bearded man's, but Sandalwood Fairy and Jing Kongling were also incomparably powerful. Jing Kongling's battle prowess had increased greatly after breaking through to the perfected spirit embryo realm. Even if he was alone, he could fight against weaker martial artists at the first level of spirit god realm. As for Sandalwood Fairy, although she mainly refined pills, her battle prowess was also not to be underestimated. Sandalwood Fairy's body glowed, emitting rays of colorful light that were very powerful. She was using her body to carve a formation. It was obvious that there was an extremely powerful formation in her body. Inscribers were biased towards one another. For example, some were biased towards refining pills, some were biased towards refining weapons, and some were biased towards refining talismans, but no matter which side they were biased towards, inscription formations were something that had to be studied and cultivated, because it was the foundation of an inscriber and also where one's battle prowess lay. Sandalwood Fairy's inscription formation was naturally extremely terrifying. The spiritual fire between her eyebrows jumped, forming a powerful spiritual storm. What a strong spiritual power! Sandalwood Fairy is absolutely perfect at every level. Lu Ming exclaimed in his heart. Sandalwood Fairy and Jing Kongling teamed up to fight the blood-robed elder and had a slight upper hand. For a moment, the 3 sides were in a stalemate, but no one stopped Dandan. He excitedly plucked the soul-refining fruits. There were also some remaining blood ghost spiders, but they were not strong and were instantly killed by the formation carved by Dandan. The eyes of the 3 from Cold Blood Hall turned red when they saw the situation. They had put in so much effort and had yet to obtain a single soul-refining fruit, but Lu Ming and the rest were about to pluck all of them. They were furious. I don't care what kind of prodigies you are, you're all going to die today. The bearded burly man roared and launched a frenzied attack on Lu Ming. Killing intent flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. He wondered if he should use all his strength to kill the bearded man. In the end, he decided to give up. The bearded man alone might not spread the news, but if he used all his strength and revealed his 9 dragons bloodline, it might be seen by others. Lu Ming bombarded the bearded burly man with punches one after another. Kill! The middle-aged man who was fighting with the blood ghost spider roared as a pagoda appeared above his head. This pagoda was blood-red in color, and blood chi filled the sky. There were 5 golden chakras on the pagoda. The middle-aged man's bloodline was at divine level 5, which was higher than the bearded man and the blood-robed elder. His battle prowess was also higher. He transformed into a blood-red pagoda, emitting a terrifying aura that suppressed the blood ghost spiders. Boom! The pagoda shook and successfully suppressed the blood ghost spiders under it. The blood-red light flashed as if it was bombarding and refining the blood ghost spiders. At this time, Dandan was still crazily plucking the soul-refining fruits. Soon, more than 100 soul-refining fruits had been plucked by Dandan. Let's go. Dandan shouted. Now that he had finished plucking the soul-refining fruits, he was about to run out. Go to hell. The space shook and blood-red light flashed. The blood-red pagoda pressed down on Dandan. The blood ghost spiders had been severely injured by the pagoda. Oh no. Dandan was shocked. With a swoosh, she ran toward Lu Ming. Fairy, Miss Kongling, let's rush out together. Lu Ming threw a few punches and then rushed toward Fairy Sandalwood and Jing Kongling. He planned to join them and rush out together. Don't even think about it. The bearded man roared and chased after them. The blood-robed elder also chased after Fairy Sandalwood and Jing Kongling. The blood-red pagoda shook and pressed down on Lu Ming. Go! Lu Ming rushed to Fairy Sandalwood and Jing Kongling and threw a few punches. The blood-robed elder trembled and retreated slightly. Chapter 1042. His glabella glowed, and the mountain and river diagram flew out. It rapidly enlarged and lengthened, surrounding Lu Ming, Sandalwood Fairy, and Jing Kongling. At the same time, Lu Ming threw a dozen punches at the blood-colored pagoda. Jing Kongling shouted and waved his hands. 2 water dragons also rushed toward the blood-colored pagoda. Sandalwood Fairy waved her hand, and 9 elixirs flew toward the blood-colored pagoda. When they were halfway there, the 9 elixirs glowed, and inscriptions appeared on them. Then, they exploded and turned into 9 battle swords, slashing toward the blood-colored pagoda. Refining elixirs into weapons. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with amazement. Sandalwood Fairy's alchemy skills had really reached an unfathomable level. She could actually refine elixirs into weapons. A single elixir was a divine weapon, a great weapon with infinite power. Boom! 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 The 3 people's attacks collided with the blood-colored pagoda. They successfully blocked the blood-colored pagoda, but their attacks also collapsed. They only felt a powerful force surging toward them, and their bodies trembled slightly. The blood-colored pagoda's strength was much stronger than the bearded man's. Go! After blocking the blood-colored pagoda, the 3 people rushed out. But at this time, the bearded man and the blood-robed elder also attacked. Together with the blood-colored pagoda, they surrounded Lu Ming and the other 2 people. Lu Ming and the other 2 people couldn't rush out at all. They could only try their best to defend. Fortunately, with the protection of the mountain and river diagram, the 3 of them could reduce their defense and use more power to attack. Lu Ming and Jing Kongling fought against the blood-colored pagoda and the blood-robed elder. Sandalwood Fairy's body glowed, and colorful light constantly flew out. It looked beautiful, but it was full of killing intent. At the same time, Sandalwood Fairy waved her hand, and elixirs flew out one after another, forming a wonderful array in the air. They burst out a terrifying attack toward the bearded man, showing Sandalwood Fairy's terrifying combat strength. But even so, the 3 of them were still at a disadvantage. The main reason was that the blood-colored pagoda was too powerful. Lu Ming's mind raced. He had no choice but to use his full strength. He was confident that if he used his full strength, he wouldn't be weaker than the blood-colored pagoda. Rumble. However, right at this moment, an earth-shattering rumble suddenly resounded between heaven and earth. The earth trembled and the sky exploded. Everyone saw dazzling lights suddenly explode in the sky like countless resplendent fireworks exploding together. The array exploded. What's going on? Sandalwood Fairy whispered. Lu Ming was also taken aback. He remembered that this herb garden was enveloped by a large formation. Previously, the Cold Blood Hall people had only broken a corner of it. But now, it seemed that the entire formation had collapsed, and the entire herb garden was about to reappear. Oh no, it's been taken by someone else. At this moment, a cry of surprise came from the blood-colored pagoda. What? Someone else took it, damn it. The bearded man and the blood-robed old man cried out in alarm. The two of them actually stopped attacking Lu Ming's group and flew backwards. Then, they each took out a sound transmission jade talisman and looked at it. Their faces fell. Wang! The blood-red pagoda shuddered and transformed back into the middle-aged man's appearance. That thing is more important. Let's go and capture the suspicious person with all our might. The middle-aged man shouted. Boy, you're lucky today. The bearded man glanced at Lu Ming's group unwillingly, and then the three Cold Blood Hall experts left without looking back. Lu Ming, Sandalwood Fairy, and Jing Kongling looked at each other in dismay. Cold Blood Hall opened this ancient herb garden. It seems that there's something more important here, but it's been taken away by someone else. Lu Ming guessed. Obviously, the value of that treasure was far above the spirit-refining fruits. Therefore, the bearded man and the others had to leave Lu Ming's group behind and chase after that treasure. Because they were not confident that they could take down Lu Ming's group in a short time. Let's go, let's leave this herb garden first. Lu Ming said. Sandalwood Fairy and Jing Kongling nodded, and the three of them flew towards the west. After such a big commotion, there would definitely be more and more experts. This herb garden was not a place to stay for long, so it was better to leave first. There were no accidents along the way. The three of them flew hundreds of thousands of miles away from the herb garden before stopping. Dandan, take out all the spirit-refining fruits. The three of them stopped on a mountain peak, and Lu Ming looked at Dandan. What? I got them. Dandan turned his head away and did not look at Lu Ming. The spirit-refining fruits are very useful for perfected spiritual embryos or spiritual gods, but they're not as useful to you as other spiritual herbs. Isn't it a waste to give them to you? Take them out quickly, they're for Sandalwood Fairy and Miss Kongling. Lu Ming said, staring at Dandan unkindly. This guy wanted to take them for himself again. In the end, under Lu Ming's threatening gaze, Dandan had no choice but to spit out more than 100 spirit-refining fruits. This was also because the spirit-refining fruits were not very useful to Dandan. Otherwise, he might not have been willing to hand them over. Sandalwood Fairy, Miss Kongling, a total of 102 spirit-refining fruits. 34 for each of you. What do you think? Lu Ming divided the spirit-refining fruits into 3 portions and gave one each to Sandalwood Fairy and Jing Kongling. This time, it was all thanks to Sandalwood Fairy and Jing Kongling. Otherwise, Lu Ming would have rushed into the valley rashly and fallen into Cold Blood Hall's trap. He would have been doomed, not to mention getting the spirit-refining fruits in the end. Sandalwood Fairy and Jing Kongling did not stand on ceremony and took them one by one. The spirit-refining fruits were very useful to them. Although Sandalwood Fairy was not a martial artist, she could use the spirit-refining fruits to refine a kind of elixir, which would be very useful for her to break through to level 8. Brat, you're a guy who values women over friends. You only know how to use the spirit herbs I plucked to win the hearts of the beauties. I'm not convinced. Beauties, you must remember that I risked my life to pluck these soul-refining fruits, not this brat. Dandan began to shout unhappily. Then, he looked at Sandalwood Fairy and Jing Kongling with a pair of shifty eyes. Ha ha ha, Master Lu, your spiritual pet is really strange. Sandalwood Fairy giggled and looked at Dandan curiously. Jing Kongling was the same. A spiritual pet, a little turtle, could inscribe inscriptions. It was really amazing. They had never seen any demonic beast that could inscribe inscription formations. Ha, beauties, I might as well tell you that I'm the head of the top 10 battle beasts. I'm unparalleled and invincible in the world. Wherever I go, the world is convinced. I think you two are not bad. How about this, I'll reluctantly accept you as my maids. What do you think? Dandan stood on Lu Ming's shoulder with 2 claws on his waist, looking invincible. Lu Ming wished he could slap this guy to death. Dandan's appearance made Sandalwood Fairy laugh. Even Jing Kongling, who had always been ethereal, showed a smile on his face. Master Lu, why don't you lend me your spiritual pet for a few days? Sandalwood Fairy smiled. Okay. Before Lu Ming could say anything, Dandan immediately nodded. She leaped into Sandalwood Fairy's arms, her claws grabbing Sandalwood Fairy's skirt. Beauty, how are you going to play with me? Chapter 1043. Lecherous Tortoise. Sandalwood Fairy's face flushed red, and she slapped Dandan away. By the side, a holy and ethereal woman like Jing Kongling blushed slightly. She and Sandalwood Fairy looked at Lu Ming with a strange expression. Lu Shaoqing, I didn't expect you to be such a person. You taught your spiritual pet to be like this. Sandalwood Fairy glared at Lu Ming fiercely. The veins on Lu Ming's face were throbbing, and he felt wronged. Dandan was not taught by him. She was a wily old fox to begin with. But Sandalwood Fairy and Jing Kongling obviously thought that Dandan was Lu Ming's spiritual pet, and it looked young, so it must have been taught by Lu Ming. The spiritual pet was so wretched and lecherous, the master was probably the same. Lu Ming cursed Dandan hundreds of times in his heart. He was really speechless. His reputation was going to be ruined by this guy. Beauty, why did you hit me? You haven't told me how to play with me. Dandan ran over and shouted again. Get in. Lu Ming grabbed Dandan and threw it directly into the mountain and river diagram. Ahem, ladies, I'll take my leave now. See you again. Lu Ming was a little embarrassed. He coughed twice and cupped his fists. Where are you going, young Master Lu? Lu Ming looked really different from the tortoise, so Sandalwood Fairy asked in a low voice. I'm going to cultivate while going to the sacred city. Goodbye. After that, Lu Ming did not stay any longer. He turned into a rainbow light and soared into the sky. This Lu Shaoqing is more mysterious than I thought. Sandalwood Fairy's beautiful eyes flashed, and then she left with Jing Kongling. Following that, Lu Ming cultivated as he hurried on his way. His speed was not fast, and he would stop every now and then. Sometimes, when he gained something, he would stop and comprehend it. Right now, he was focusing on comprehending the will of heaven and earth. On the other hand, he'd found a place to refine the 30+ soul refinement fruits as well. The energy of the soul refinement fruits had completely seeped into his spirit embryo. At that time, if he broke through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm and his spirit embryo broke through to the domain enlightened spirit god realm, then his domain enlightened spirit god would definitely be more material than an ordinary person, and his chances of overcoming the heavenly tribulation would be even greater. After 7 days of walking and stopping, Lu Ming had only traveled a few million miles. On this day, Lu Ming arrived at the territory of a sect called the Mystic Mist Sect. Compared to the entire central continent, this was a small sect. There were only a few spiritual gods in the sect, but it also had a teleportation formation. Lu Ming planned to take the teleportation formation of the Mystic Mist Sect, cross the void, and head west. After all, the central continent was simply too vast. There were hundreds of regions in the Eastern Barren Territory, but the central continent was 7 or 8 times larger than the Eastern Barren Territory. He did not know how long it would take to fly to the sacred city. What happened? The teleportation formation of the Mystic Mist Sect is controlled by a powerful force. No one is allowed to leave by it. What? Is that true? What kind of force is so overbearing? I heard that it's the Cold Blood Hall. They seem to be looking for someone, and have sent out a large number of experts. I have something urgent to do. I have to go out. I can only go to other forces and have a look. Lu Ming walked into a big city near the Mystic Mist Sect and heard the news. The Cold Blood Hall has blocked the teleportation formation of the Mystic Mist Sect. Lu Ming frowned. He remembered that the bearded man and the others had said that something had been taken away in the ancient herb garden. Was the Cold Blood Hall still hunting for the robber? What on earth could make the Cold Blood Hall send out so many people? Lu Ming observed the vicinity of the Mystic Mist sect and saw many experts of the Cold Blood Hall. The next day, Lu Ming left the territory of the Mystic Mist sect and went to another force. The Divine Wind Ancient Country was an ancient country with several spiritual gods. There was also a teleportation formation in the capital of the Divine Wind Ancient Country. A few days later, Lu Ming arrived at the capital of the Divine Wind Ancient Country. He appeared in a restaurant. Damn it, the teleportation formation of the Divine Wind Ancient Country is also controlled by the Cold Blood Hall. We can't get out at all. It's said that the teleportation formations of more than a dozen forces in the surrounding area are all controlled by the Cold Blood Hall. No one can leave by teleportation formation. The Cold Blood Hall is so overbearing. Who asked them to be an overlord force? That's a force with an emperor overseeing it. There was a burst of discussion in the restaurant. Lu Ming frowned slightly. The teleportation formations of more than a dozen forces in the surrounding area were all controlled. There was no need to go to other forces. After eating and drinking, Lu Ming found an inn in the capital of the Divine Wind Imperial City to stay for the time being and observe the situation. In the following days, Lu Ming cultivated in the inn every day. Occasionally, he would go out to check the situation. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. However, the Cold Blood Hall still controlled the various teleportation formations. No one could leave by teleportation formation. Some people were anxious and had urgent matters to attend to. Therefore, many people had gathered together and decided not to use the teleportation formation but to fly away. However, they had to cross a huge mountain range to the west. The mountain range spanned from north to south and was tens of millions of miles long. There were countless powerful fierce beasts on the mountain range. Ordinary people would only be courting death if they flew over the mountain range. However, towards the west of the Divine Wind Ancient Country, there was a huge plain. It was as if the middle of the mountain range had been struck by a palm, and the mountain range had been pierced through, forming a plain. This plain was much safer than the mountain range, and had become a passage for many people to go west. However, there were many fierce beasts on the plain. Occasionally, powerful fierce beasts would sneak out from the mountain range on both sides. Therefore, for safety reasons, if they did not use the teleportation formation, they would gather a large group of people and travel together. There was already a group of people in the capital of the Divine Wind Imperial City. They planned to fly over the mountain range together. On this day, tens of thousands of people flew to the west of the Divine Wind Imperial City. Lu Ming was among them. He also planned to fly over the mountain range with the crowd. The group of people flew in a mighty manner. Soon, a vast mountain range appeared in front of them. The mountain range was extremely huge. It towered into the clouds and spanned from north to south. There were countless fierce beasts on it. However, there was a huge gap in the middle of the mountain range. It formed a plain that was tens of thousands of miles wide. It broke through the mountain range and led to the opposite side. According to legend, there was no such gap a long time ago. Later on, there was a battle between two emperors. The mountain range was broken by a palm strike from one of the emperors. That was how the plain was formed. Lu Ming had seen the emperors fight. They were so terrifying that they could definitely break through such a vast mountain range with a single palm strike. The group of people gathered together and flew toward the plain. Roar, the roars of various fierce beasts could be heard from time to time. Some of the roars tore through the clouds. It was extremely terrifying. Those were the roars of spiritual god fierce beasts. Let's get through this mountain range as soon as possible. If we attract spiritual god fierce beasts, we'll be in trouble. Someone shouted. The group sped up and flew forward. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, there was a bloody light in front of them. Blood chi filled the sky and blocked their way. What's going on? Someone shouted. Oh no, it's the experts from Cold Blood Hall. They're blocking our way. What? Did Cold Blood Hall also send experts here to block us? Damn it. Chapter 1044. Whoosh. Whoosh. Blood-red light constantly flew out and floated in the air. In a few breaths, experts in blood-red robes appeared in all directions, staring coldly at Lu Ming and the others. They were all experts from Cold Blood Hall, some of whom had extremely terrifying auras. Experts. So many spiritual god experts. Just the number of spiritual god experts alone exceeds 20. Someone exclaimed. Cold Blood Hall had so many experts here. Several experts from Cold Blood Hall stood in the air. They were the leaders of the Cold Blood Hall experts. We have taken control of all the teleportation formations of the surrounding forces. The person who stole the treasure must be in a hurry to leave. This is his chance. He must be mixed in with this group of people. A white-haired elder said. That's right. It's dangerous to stay in the territory of Cold Blood Hall. He must be in a hurry to leave. We can't use the transmission formation, so we can only fly. There must be someone we're looking for among this group of people. Check every single one of them. A burly man said coldly. With that, he took a step forward and a terrifying aura was released from his body, shrouding Lu Ming and nearly 10,000 people under his aura. Seniors from Cold Blood Hall, why are you stopping us? Someone asked loudly. That's right, we didn't offend anyone from Cold Blood Hall. Another person said. Cold Blood Hall is looking for someone among you, so we can only stop all of you. The burly man said. Is there someone you're looking for? What are their characteristics? Can we help? Someone asked. We don't know. We don't know what characteristics they have. We don't even know if they're a man or a woman. That's why we're stopping all of you. The burly man said. Everyone looked at each other. How were they going to find them if they didn't even know if they were a man or a woman? The burly man sneered and said, this man has taken a precious treasure from Cold Blood Hall. So, it's simple. All you need to do is to hand over all your storage rings. What? You want us to hand over our storage rings? No way. Someone refused flatly. How could they get their storage rings back after handing them over? Moreover, which martial artist didn't have secrets? Many of them were in storage rings. Who would want to hand them over? You have to hand them over today. The burly man's eyes turned cold. Cold Blood Hall is too arrogant. You're not the only overlord in the central continent. Don't go too far. Someone said coldly. Really? The burly man's eyes suddenly turned cold, and a blood spear appeared in his hand. In the next moment, the blood spear tore through the void like a blood-colored lightning bolt, stabbing towards an old European. That old European turned pale with fright, and his aura surged as he frantically retreated. However, it was useless. The blood-colored spear pierced through and nailed Old O to death on the plains. Hiss, many people sucked in a breath of cold air. The aura that erupted from Old O was incomparably terrifying. He was in existence at the first layer of Spirit God, but he was still killed by the burly man's blood spear. It was truly terrifying. How dare you question Cold Blood Hall? You're courting death. The burly man said coldly. Many people kept quiet out of fear and broke out in cold sweat. The Cold Blood Hall was too overbearing. They could even kill a spiritual god on a whim. It was truly overbearing. This was an overlord power. The spiritual gods of some small forces were like ants in their eyes. They could kill them as they wished. If you don't hand over your storage ring, die. The burly man said coldly as he swept his gaze over the people closest to him. Yes, I'll hand it over. The faces of the people who were swept by the burly man changed drastically. They could only take off their storage rings and hand them over. In the crowd, Lu Ming frowned. The burly man was too strong. He was definitely not at the first layer of Spirit God. He was probably at the third or fourth layer of Spirit God. In the spiritual God realm, the gap between each layer was huge. It was not too difficult for someone one layer higher to kill someone one layer lower, let alone someone a few layers higher. Charge, let's charge out. Cold Blood Hall only has a few hundred people. We have tens of thousands. Let's charge out together. That's right. Storage rings are all that we martial artists have. How can we cultivate in the future if we hand them over? At worst, we'll just fight it out. Charge! Roars suddenly came from the crowd. Some people began to charge out in all directions. With someone leading the charge, the crowd was instantly thrown into chaos. No one wanted to hand over their storage rings. Many people followed suit when they saw others breaking out of the encirclement. Tens of thousands of people broke out of the encirclement in all directions. The plains were in chaos. You're courting death. Kill, kill without mercy. The burly man roared, his killing intent raging. Boom. 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 The experts of Cold Blood Hall burst out with powerful auras. Rays of bloody light bloomed. There were more than 20 spiritual god experts. The rest were at the high level of the spiritual embryo realm. There were even some old monsters among them. Kill. Whoosh. Whoosh. Rays of bloody light formed sword rays, saber rays, fist forces, etc., and blasted toward Lu Ming and the others. Hundreds of people were killed in an instant. Their bodies scattered on the ground. A spear ray pierced toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming punched out and shattered the spear ray. His figure flashed as he rushed toward the mountain range on the left. Only by rushing into the mountain range and making use of the complex terrain and the fierce beasts in the mountain range could he avoid the experts of Cold Blood Hall. If he ran to either end of the plains, he would definitely be caught and killed. An expert fixed his eyes on Lu Ming. Rays of bloody light flashed in his hand, forming rays of spear light that pierced toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming unleashed his movement technique and flashed continuously, avoiding the spear gleams as he ran at high speed. Ah! The plains were completely drowned in screams. Large numbers of corpses fell, and the smell of blood filled the air. Swallow. Some experts of Cold Blood Hall used the bloodthirst technique to swallow the thick smell of blood into their mouths. Boom. Boom. There were a few extremely terrifying experts from Cold Blood Hall, such as the burly man and the two elders. Their auras were violent. With a wave of their hands, the sky and earth shook. Large numbers of experts were killed by their palm prints. There were also a few spiritual god experts in Lu Ming's group, but they were no match for the experts and died one after another. I'll give you my storage ring. Some people were scared and shouted that they wanted to give up their storage rings. However, some people continued to charge forward, unwilling to give up their storage rings. Master Lu, save me. Lu Ming was charging forward when he suddenly heard a cry. He turned his gaze and was slightly stunned. Zhou Exin. He saw Zhou Exin. At this moment, Zhou Exin was running with all her might, trying to get out. Let's go. Lu Ming pulled Zhou Exin and moved forward quickly. Stay. An elder fixed his eyes on the two of them. His terrifying aura erupted as he charged toward them. This elder's aura was stronger than that of an ordinary LV1 spiritual god. He should be a LV2 spiritual god expert. Lu Ming pulled Zhou Exin and used the 9 dragons heaven stomping steps. His body was like a stream of light, but his speed was affected as he was carrying someone. Soon, the elder caught up with them. The old man threw a punch and a blood-red fist force blasted toward Lu Ming. Chapter 1045. Lu Ming let go of Zhou Xian and unleashed his dragon force. He circulated the Strangle Hell skill to the maximum and punched. Boom! As the two forces collided, Lu Ming's body shook violently. He retreated a few steps and spat out a mouthful of blood. The elder was too strong. A second-level spirit god was several times stronger than a first-level spirit god. Lu Ming used the Strangle Hell skill to the maximum to barely block the punch, but he was still injured. The elder was shocked to see that Lu Ming, an ant with a perfected spirit embryo, could survive his punch. He was stunned and did not continue to attack. At the same time, the vital vitality in the vitality-receiving stone poured into Lu Ming's body. He pulled Zhou Xian and used the 9 dragons' heaven trampling steps to run forward. Zhou Xian had given him the purple jade that contained the vitality-receiving stone. Now that she was in danger, how could Lu Ming leave her in the lurch? The two of them left in a flash. Only then did the elder react. His killing intent exploded as he shouted angrily, "Where do you think you're going?" He quickly chased after Lu Ming. Swoosh! Swoosh! In front of them, there were also experts from Cold Blood Hall attacking Lu Ming. Attacks enveloped the two of them. These were attacks from experts with a perfected spirit embryo. Lu Ming was not afraid of them alone, but with Zhou Xian, Lu Ming had to attack to help her block the attacks. As a result, their speed was slowed down again. Behind them, the elder chased after them. "Hand over your storage rings and I'll let you go," the elder roared. Zhou Xian gritted her teeth and did not say a word. She looked anxious and worried, but she had no intention of handing over her storage rings. "Forget it, let's fight." Lu Ming's gaze moved and a voice entered Zhou Xian's ears. "Don't resist." Lu Ming's voice rang out. Zhou Xian nodded. Then, a light flashed between Lu Ming's brows and the mountain river diagram appeared. He swept Zhou Xian into the mountain river diagram. Swoosh! Lu Ming was the only one left. His speed increased explosively, and the Cold Blood Hall expert in front of him with a perfect spirit embryo was blown apart by Lu Ming. Lu Ming used the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps and was like a stream of light. For a moment, the old man couldn't catch up. How can he be so strong? Who is this young man? The old man was shocked and chased after him with all his might, but he found that Lu Ming was getting further and further away. In less than 2 minutes, Lu Ming rushed into the mountain range. Within the mountain range, terrifying ferocious beasts were entrenched. Not long after Lu Ming rushed in, he met quite a few ferocious beasts of spirit embryo realm, but he rushed past them all. Lu Ming could only run as fast as he could since the Cold Blood Hall elder was still hot on his heels. Roar! A huge black tiger appeared. It was more than 10 meters tall and looked like a small mountain. A terrifying aura emanated from it. With a loud roar, the clouds in the sky exploded. This was an extremely powerful ferocious beast. It had the bloodline of a divine beast, but it didn't want to take human form and hid deep in the forest. When it saw Lu Ming and the Cold Blood Hall elder, its eyes flashed fiercely. With a loud roar, it slapped at Lu Ming with its claws. Lu Ming blocked it with the mountain river painting and punched out, but he was still sent flying by the black tiger's slap and broke dozens of huge rocks. However, the black tiger's target was obviously not Lu Ming, but the old man. Because the old man posed a great threat to the black tiger, and Lu Ming's aura was weak, the black tiger ignored him and pounced on the old man. Immediately, the black tiger and the old man fought fiercely, and the old man was at a disadvantage. Not far away, the rocks exploded and Lu Ming dashed out from the rocks. His figure flashed and he left the place at lightning speed. Damn it! The Cold Blood Hall elder roared, but there was nothing he could do. He was suppressed by the black tiger and could only barely protect himself as he watched Lu Ming leave. This black tiger is really powerful. Lu Ming wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, feeling a splitting pain all over his body. Just now, being slapped by the black tiger, he suffered considerable injuries. But it was worth it to shake off the cold blood Hall Elder. Next, Lu Ming slowed down a little, restrained his aura, and focused his mind. If he sensed a strong aura, Lu Ming would go around it. It took Lu Ming a whole day to cross the mountain range. After crossing the mountain range, Lu Ming did not stop. He rose into the air and flew into the distance. After flying for millions of miles, Lu Ming stopped by a small river. He took a bath in the river and changed into a new set of clothes. He then sat cross-legged and began to recuperate. Although he was injured, they were all external injuries. Now that his body was strong, these injuries were healed in less than half a day. Phew! Lu Ming exhaled. With a wave of his hand, Zhou Xian appeared. Zhou Xian looked around vigilantly as soon as she appeared. When she saw that Lu Ming was alone, she heaved a long sigh of relief. Don't worry, Miss Zhou. We're already far away from that mountain range. Lu Ming said. Thank you for saving me again, Master Lu. I'm very grateful. Zhou Xian bowed to Lu Ming and said gratefully. You're welcome, Miss Zhou. You gave me the purple jade that you wanted. Since I saw you in danger, I should help you. Lu Ming smiled faintly and asked, where are your servants? Zhou Xian used to have servants by her side, including maids and guards. But now, they were all gone. Zhou Xian's eyes reddened. They're all dead. Oh. Lu Ming did not say much. He thought for a while and said, Miss Zhou, where do you live? Do you need me to send you back? I'm from the Zhou family of Drum Mountain. I was just about to invite you to my house as a guest. Zhou Xian said. Drum Mountain? Lu Ming thought for a while. He had bought a map of Central Continent and roughly knew the direction of Drum Mountain. It was also west, which was the same direction as Lu Ming wanted to go. Alright, I'll go with you. Lu Ming nodded. Zhou Xian was overjoyed. The two of them rose into the air and left. After a few million miles, they arrived at a small power with a transmission formation. Cold Blood Hall did not have the power to control the transmission formation on this side of the mountain range because it was already part of Sky Eagle Fort's territory. The two of them took the transmission formation and traveled hundreds of millions of miles, which was equivalent to the distance of dozens of large domains in eastern wilderness. They then flew for another 2 days before arriving at Drum Mountain. Drum Mountain was surrounded by tall peaks and cranes. There was not much vegetation on the mountain because it was filled with spiritual chi of the fire attribute. Hence, the vegetation here was sparse. Drum Mountain was the territory of the Zhou family. On the way, Lu Ming learned that the Zhou family was a small force. There were not many spiritual god experts in the Zhou family. One could count them with one hand. Miss Zhou is back. Someone cheered as soon as they arrived near Drum Mountain. So you're the eldest daughter of the Zhou family? Lu Ming said with a smile. My father is the head of the Zhou family. It's just a small power. Please don't laugh at me. Zhou Xian pursed her lips and smiled. Xian, You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.